Welcome back to the question and answer session with Tree0311 and Warrior Humble. If you missed the previous section, we did a look at lore and its sort of implications in a sandbox universe like Star Citizen. Does it have a place? What does lore actually matter? What does it actually do in the game? And this is our question and answer session. As I said, it's what we call the After Dark section. So you can ask all of your naughty questions or just whatever questions it is. So if you want to join us live, we do this on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Would love to have you come by and ask your own questions. But with that, let's jump right into the questions, starting with Mount Stunner. We already answered this question a little bit, but this is for you, Warrior Humble. The real question is, have you gotten your roommate addicted to Star Citizen yet? You already kind of answered that, but you said your roommate isn't a video game player.
I mean, he does play video games, but just like, off time here and there. But when I ask him, like, have you played this? Have you played this? It's mostly no.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really like show really like an interest in all that. He mostly plays like, those football games. And mostly I've seen is like Call of Duty. Lately was Black Ops 6 or something like that. So that's why. So not really. But he wasn't my first roommate. My past roommate, I actually did try. He did list it down, but I don't know how far he got into it. But not really. And let's see.
Go ahead.
Oh, I see another. No, I was just bringing another question, and I already knew that one was coming.
We'll go through this one. Tagram Unlimited asks, question: Which do you all think will come first, the rework of the Reclaimer or a salvage Arastra? I'll start with you on this one, Tree, because I'm sure. I don't know how much Warrior knows about the Arastra or the Reclaimer. So, do you think we're going to see a rework of the Reclaimer, or do you think we'll see another large, non-Aegis salvage ship?
Reworking the Reclaimer is going to be a lot, and I want to remind everyone we saw the concept rework. White box and all that of the 600i. How long ago?
5 years ago? 6?
Yeah. In the other thing is they are not going to rework the Reclaimer until all of until salvage is much closer to where binding is. Once the mechanics are 90% fleshed out and things are the way they're supposed to be, then they will figure out, okay, how are we going to rework because they're not going to rebuild the ship from scratch. They'll rework the interior to get it into a better place. But it's never going to be as good as if it was concepted with salvage being in the game. We know how these things work, but it will be better. But before the heat death of the universe, before we get the Endeavor, but not by a whole lot. The Arastra isn't all that much smaller. It's still a large ship. It's a big ship. It's nearly Reclaimer class in terms of for mining. And so I think we're definitely going to see. I don't think we're going to see more big salvage ships until they get the other aspects of salvage, besides hull scraping, further along. We know that the whole breaking is not what they want, but that whole breaking is dependent on Maelstrom.
Yeah,
and so until we see Maelstrom fully implemented in the PU, we're not going to. And then 6 months to a year after that is when we'll see the actual structural salvage be where they want it to be. And I think that's when we will see medium to large salvage ships come in, because they're going to want to flesh out the mechanic before they concept more ships that are going to take more advantage of that gameplay than we have right now. Because are they going to continue to sonic boom the ship into bits? How is the and so I wouldn't hold out hope for more. I was actually surprised that we got the new little guy, the
Misfortune.
Yeah, the Fortune. I was surprised we got that, but really, when you look at it, you're not taking that out and doing the full salvage mechanic. You're really just going to go out and scrape some holes and everything with it. You're not going to be full spectrum salvage like you would be something like the Reclaimer. You can to an extent, but it's so I wouldn't hold out hope for that, at least not in the next, probably not in the next year. Within the year to 2 year mark, I think would maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
sure they have concepts for it, but they're not going to put them into production.
You laid out the timeline pretty good. Like, the thing is that Maelstrom is the damage system. It's the damage system and how damage is going to work. For those of you who still kind of iffy on Maelstrom, effectively right now all the ships have a health pool. So you shoot a ship part, and that part will have a little HP bar which will go down. You never see the HP bar, but it's in the game logic. It's an HP bar. But they've even talked about this recently. The idea is that when Engineering and Maelstrom comes out, it'll no longer be an HP bar. It'll be, these are the locations of the equipment, and these are the invisible pipes, the fictitious pipes. They won't actually be physicalized, but they'll be like, these are the locations of them in terms of the game logic that leads to all of these different parts. So if those pipes break, or if the components are hit, then that will cause damage, which would then affect your ship. But you could like riddle a ship full of holes and do nothing to it if you don't hit the right spots. Now, there'll still be...
It's a material simulation.
Yeah.
It's a structural material simulation. And so the ship isn't going to break apart unless you hit it with essentially enough energy in the right places for it to break apart. And how ships break apart is going to be different, and it's going to be very dynamic versus right now, the way ships are built, it is predefined. So when you hit this part with enough damage and its pool gets down to 0, this part breaks off and it makes this piece, and it will always do that. It's predictable.
I will also put another link right above your head, because we literally had this conversation with Darj when he walked through his how he makes the model kits for JRDF for Star Citizen ships. He talks about how they literally have the breakpoints in the models. You can actually find the breaking points of where they break apart when you download the models. So, and then they showed it off on CitizenCon about Maelstrom. Like, was it 2 years ago, 2023? They showed that like these were the parts before, and now these are the parts now, and it's like 10 parts versus 100 parts just for like a wing of a Gladius, because they have so many more detailed little smaller bits they can break off, and those are going to be broken off based off of where you hit the thing, not just if it gets damaged a little bit. So,
where you hit the thing, what you hit it with,
and without that,
what it's made out of, because it's going to break apart differently between a Anvil Hornet and an Aegis Gladius because of what they're made of.
And without that, going forward and trying to rework salvage in a way that, or rework the Reclaimer in a way that would make it make sense for the Reclaimer to exist, doesn't make a lot of sense. It's just a lot of work for possibly having to do more work in the future, because it's like they don't fully know that yet. So I'll ask you the question, Warrior, but I don't know if you know the difference between any of that.
Yeah, you guys are about to hear a very short answer. So, I am a little I do know a little bit about the Aegis Reclaimer, a little bit, because I did watch a ship commercial about it from the Star Citizen channel. I just looked at it and said, "Wow, that was pretty much it." But I didn't like really get into depth of it, because there is another channel that I do watch that like breaks down the ship in general. I don't. I hope it's cool if I could say the name channel, the name of the channel. He's called the Morphologist.
Morphologist, yeah.
Yeah, people have been recommending me to him, because they're like, since you've been watching a lot of Star Citizen ship commercials, if you really want like a breakdown of the ships, then this is the channel to go to. So I've been watching him, but I did not watch. I don't think he has done one about the Reclaimer yet, but I just know what it looks like, and I know it's from Aegis. But the second ship you guys are mentioning, it does not. Nothing comes to mind.
Okay. Yeah. No, I 100% get that. So, basically, the basic gist is that CIG at one point recently said that they know they need to redo the Reclaimer, because the Reclaimer was built in like 2016, 2017. And they had no idea the actual salvage mechanic of what the game was going to be. So when they added salvage 3-4 years ago, a a lot of the stuff they realized they needed to do completely changed how the ship functioned. And so they sort of duct taped fixes to the ship to make it work, but it still very much doesn't work as well as it should. So now they're talking about having to go back and reworking the interior to make sure that they use the space appropriately and everything kind of works for what they want it to do. That was 3 to 4 years ago. It was like 315 or was it 314? No, salvage. Let me look it up. 318, which was 2020. That's 23. Yeah, beginning of 23. Because no, that wasn't 3 years ago. That was that last year. Because we had 318, and then we had 319, and then we had 3. No, that was 2 years ago. That was 2 years ago. Because how it works, we're now in 411, and then 40 was at the end of the last year, and 41 was in March, and then 4 or April, and then 40 was end of last year, and 324 was before that, and then 323 was before that, and then 322 was in the year before that, because we only had 2 patches that year, last year. Well, 3. But we had a bunch of that. Yes, that was 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago. Yeah. So.
Dear God.
Yeah. Sorry. I also remember like we were talking about something and I was like, that was pretty recent. And then I looked it up at one of my live streams. I looked it up and I was like, it was a regen. It's like, that was pretty recently. And I looked it up and I was like, regen was 2021. Like, dang. Oh gosh. All right. The next question comes from Shimpasta.
Insert little old lady with her walker meme. Okay, Grandma, let's get you back to bed.
Shimpasta asks, speaking of lore, why is the Redeemer Paul's favorite ship?
Oh man, people. I saw in the YouTube chat right now. They're like, "Hey, please ask him why, and all that." That's like the number one question they've been asking me to ask you.
There is one ship that I hate above anything else, and it's the Aegis Redeemer. The shortest answer is it was actually a ship that was it was created because of a contest. Fans were able to submit as teams to build a new ship, and it was really CIG going like, we don't have enough people who know how the CryEngine works, so we need to get people who know how to do a CryEngine. So they did this competition as a way of like as a mask for basically hiring new people, and pretty much everybody who made it to the finals ended up getting hired. But the competition was effectively who could make the most popular gunship. And my favorite, which is known as the Drake Brutus, got 3rd place. But the people who won made the Aegis Redeemer, and the Redeemer was well marketed. It was built directly for what the community wanted at the time, and they knew how to talk to the community properly. So the community really liked it, and so it ended up winning because it was more popular rather than the better ship. And that always irked me because I was like, the Brutus was a better ship overall.
It just sold better.
They basically just, because they had a vote, and the community voted for the Redeemer because it was like they liked it better, because like they were doing commercials and they were doing like showing off the interior, whereas like the other teams were like scrambling to get a video out that would show the whole animations of the ship rotating and working, because they were like so behind and compared to them. They were just ahead, and they had a lot of, so they use all their free time that they got ahead to, like, one of the things was everyone wanted a coffee maker and a microwave, so they added a coffee maker and a microwave to the ship. And so like, yeah, see, now you get a coffee maker and microwave. They were really good at talking about their ship and hyping it up. And it has these unique sort of what people call the hair curler engines. It looks like when it's flying, like here's the front, here's the engines. When it flies, it opens up these engines that kind of look like a hair curler or like a nutcracker. I hate those designs, but it's that sort of like unique style. And then that was already bad enough. I was like, I don't like this shit because of that. And then its implementation was very lazy by CIG because during the contest, it was clear that all of the judges who were judging this, all of them were like, this is not a good ship. And so they had to, because of the contest, they had to accept it. They sold the ship. So people had to they had to put it in the game. So when it was finally added to the game, it was clear that they just sort of did what they could to make what they had work. And by what they did was they just made it really, really powerful, like a really powerful ship. It just had a bunch of really big guns that did really well. And I hated that because I'm like, this is just a lazy implementation that's going to have to get nerfed in the future. Then on top of all of that, this was the thing that really made me go, I hate this thing forever, is the lore team didn't bother doing any lore for it because they're like, yeah, we don't know what to do with it. So like at one point on the floor, these Invictus and IAE, you can go to the floor of these convention centers and actually see these ships, and they have these little plaques that go like, the Aegis Retaliator, built in 2544, the height of the Twaran War. This bomber has continued to serve in the that kind of thing, right? Little in-lore blurbs. For the longest time, the Redeemer's blurb was the winner of the Star Citizen's Next Great Starship contests in 2015. And it's like, you didn't even bother putting any lore in it. It's just the pitch of the actual ship. So, I hate it.
When there was nothing but lore at the time.
Yeah, it was just nothing. The only thing they had was like the only thing the writers were able to do at the time was write lore and stories and all these sorts of things. And they didn't even bother putting lore into for it. I was like, nope, I hate you. You. Why do you exist? Screaming me. So that's the story of why I hate the Redeemer. But CIG thought it was funny, so the developers decided that they would give me one of these ships that I cannot sell, I cannot melt, so I can't get rid of them for store credit, and I can't upgrade it, so I can't use the in-game or the upgrade system in the store where you can like pay a little bit of money and get a different ship from it. So I can't touch it. It's in my account and it's labeled Paul's most favorite ship.
Oh.
Yeah. So they stuck that in my account and said, you're not getting rid of it.
Oh my God.
I haven't ever pulled it out, but it's stuck in whenever I go to pull out ships, it's there. It's always there staring at me.
Oh,
that's the kind of devs these guys are.
Oh my God, they got you.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from MPCDN, who says, not a question, but someone needs to get Warrior Humble a PC that can play Star Citizen. He's the kind of Star Citizen player and content creator we need. So, you got to be careful.
He's going to be making that officer money soon. Don't worry about him. He'll be fine.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. So I don't think it was a PC issue at the time because, like I said, I had a pretty crappy laptop at the time, and I was like, I don't want this thing just like melting in front of me as soon as I started playing. But I do have a gaming laptop now, and I've been doing it using this for a few months now. I've been playing all my games on there. Like pretty much everything that has been coming on the channel lately has been from this laptop. So I have been thinking about getting to Star Citizen, but when I saw like the price of the game and just like how to get into it or when to get into it, it's mostly just like price and time now. Just like trying to find the time for it because I'm just worried that I'm just gonna play like maybe like 1 or 2 hours and then I'm going to be sent out to the field, and then you guys are not going to hear from me for a little bit.
Yeah. No, we have another member of the community who shows up in the captain's table pretty frequently. He's a petty officer in the Navy, but he's on subs. So every so often I'll be like, "You want to come on?" He's like, "I'm not going to be back for another 6 months. Goodbye." So he's on your podcast every so often, right, Tree? The Armchair Admirals and Generals. So,
yep, it's been a while since I've done one, but Nightcop and Atira are the founding co-hosts, and I would love to do it more often. I'm just trying to get back into making content more regularly.
You just
because
2 kids, so
yeah, I'm a full-time dad with 2 part-time jobs. I keep pretty busy.
All right. Let's move on to the next question. Commander Shadowstalker says, presumably the question bot is live. Yes, it is. Escape asks, where's my Hammerhead Invictus paint? You'd think CIG would get them, would need the money. New paints would be a really good return on investment. That's a completely, Escape has been trying to find a specific skin for his Hammerhead for a while, which is a specific blue and gold paint that usually comes out during the Invictus, the Fleet Week. And it's for whatever reason, it's not in the store. So yeah, I couldn't tell you, Escape. All right. Commander Shadowstalker says, a question for the captains. Which decision do you think would have gotten CIG a smaller firestorm and therefore more money? Okay, this is where the big ones come in. We had to explain this to Warrior beforehand because Warrior was like, oh yeah, I'd seen about this, but I didn't really know. So his question is, which would have gotten less of drama and therefore more money? The way blades get initially implemented, or CIG. I'm not asking that question, Shadowstalker. You ask the same question every week. I'm skipping it. No. I didn't read the full thing. Stakeroo asks, okay, this is a good one. Do you think CIG's ship classification makes sense? And can you give a quick rundown from the smallest to biggest? I get confused a lot. This comes a lot from the capital discussion, because the Idris is classified as a frigate, and everyone's like, this is a destroyer. Because if you look at it, it's like an Arleigh Burke is basically what the Idris is. And that it serves similar purposes, it has similar mission goals. So people are like, this should be a destroyer. Why is it a frigate?
I think
thing like the classifications make no sense. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, it's the classifications. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think the issue is some people ascribe the classification to role, and CIG ascribed it to essentially what comes down to is tonnage. And and there's an argument to be made for role, and roles have changed a lot over the decades and longer and everything. And in terms of for a practical sense for CIG, just making it more associated with tonnage, essentially tonnage / dimensions, was easier for them. Because you have to think about, this is the 30th century. You're trying to ascribe roles from the 19th, 20th, and 21st century to 900 years in the future. Things are different, and it's not all the same, but things still are broken down by size. And so there's the classification. There's the military classification in terms of corvette, frigate, destroyer, cruiser, battlecruiser, and those ascribed to traditionally size rankings that still follow a logical classification that people from various countries will understand, because it isn't just US, it isn't just the UK, and not everybody here on Earth essentially ascribes to the same sort of rule set based off of role, but the sizes make sense to most people regardless of where you're from. But then the other classification is size, the extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, and those are again simply based off of dimensions. And so it's a way of tying it into something that is a little bit more approachable and understandable for the majority of people than, okay, well, it's called a frigate because it does this. No, it's called a frigate because it's this size, and the next one smaller is a corvette because it's this size, and the next one larger is a destroyer because it's this size. It's simple. Yeah.
Um, the way I will say this as well is I just wanted to look it up because it's actually pretty clear that CIG was literally using the Arleigh Burke as the basis of it, because even the characterizations of the different versions of the Arleigh Burke, the flight 1, 2, 2A, and 3, that's the Idris's flights. That's literally
Yep.
the same.
It's like what, 7?
There's only 4. It's the 1, the
Oh.
2, the 3, and then there's technically the 4, but the 4 is the P. The Peacekeeper is like
Yeah.
the latest.
I think that the Javelin has like 6 or 7
Yeah,
flights.
the Javelin has
I don't
7
remember.
flights.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Gladius has like 8 versions. So, but so it's clear that they were basing it off of they were looking at the Arleigh Burke, and I also wanted to look up the dimensions of the Arleigh Burke versus the Idris, and it's not even close. The Arleigh Burke is about 154 to 55 meters in length. It's got a beam of 20 meters and it's got a draft of about 10 meters. And the Idris's length is 243 meters. So it's like 100 meters longer than the Arleigh Burke. It's got its beam is like 20 meters, whereas the Idris's beam is like straight up 127.
So, and there isn't a direct size comparison. It's just corvettes are smaller than frigates. Frigates are smaller than destroyers. Destroyers are smaller than cruisers. Because this is World War II in space.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And that's the thing that I was going to point out. That like the classifications are hard to make, because if you did purely roll, the Idris sort of fits between an Arleigh Burke and a Coast Guard cutter. Because you do see the Idrises in the fleet. You'll see them you see them in Squadron 42. Like you actually, as you're looking at watch the prologue video, the prologue mission they showed off, you see multiple Idrises flying around the gauntlet, and one of them gets blown up in the middle of it. Maybe the Goss, I think, gets blown up, but its role is as fleet support, but its main role, as we'll see in Squadron 42, is actually patrol. It patrols home waters more than anything. Its main job is to go into the interior of the UEE and fly around and keep the peace. And as a result, it sort of doesn't make sense to call it a destroyer, because it would be like if a destroyer was also a Coast Guard cutter. And the one thing I do remember is that CIG writers at one point, I talked with them, and they said if we could go back and change the categorization of the ships to something completely not based on any reality, we would do that. Because the purpose of the classifications was less of a tying it to modern day and more of a way that they could measure it between each other, and so that they could have like discussions. But they'd already made the classifications when they did the script for Squadron 42, so they can't go away from them. They have to stick to those classifications because it's already in Squadron. So like I understand it doesn't make any sense to people using modern versions, modern ideas. But it's basically just more of a corvette, frigate, destroyer, cruiser, battleship, carrier, super carrier. So, and I think that ship sailed. So but the classifications that seems to be used in lore is more around to do with, like, as you said, like it's tonnage, but also it's in terms of it's like how much does it displace, because we also know that the Idris is half the size of a Javelin, and the Javelin's like half the size of a Bengal, or like a fourth of the size of the Bengal. So it's definitely the size it plays into it, and then the role based off that size is important too. And we also like don't have any more destroyers other than the Javelin. There's only one frigate, which is the Idris. There's only one super carrier, which is the Bengal. So
there's one cruiser right now. There's one escort carrier. We haven't seen the battle cruiser. The battleships don't exist in the UEE anymore.
Yeah.
We have one corvette. They have said they want to make more. Like,
I did an entire thing on the Polaris about how the cluster that was the Polaris program, the Corvette program in the UEE was it makes the Zumwalt class look like a well-oiled machine that wasn't that is
oh boy,
well designed and well planned. It's because it took them 500 years to build it. Stakeroo asks, oh yeah, the one. It's a Shadow Stalker question, so I have to ask the question, read the question fully to make sure he doesn't slip that in. Okay. Another question for the captains. Should we have more plasma-based ship weapons, even if it's merely the Drake Interplanetary's way of duct taping the Karnas together and putting the result a mess inside of a salvage attrition housing? I think so. Plasma weapons are a sci-fi staple. What do you think, Warrior?
Well,
Go ahead.
I said it's basically like, a little bit more futuristic, and because Star Citizen is based in the future.
Yeah.
So it's good to have like a variety of ballistic weapons and plasma weapons. But if you look at like Star Wars and Mass Effect, they all have like plasma weapons. So that's kind of like the signature of like games or anything that would happen in the future. The weapons are more advanced. This is like how much technology advanced throughout these centuries, things like that. So, in my opinion, yeah, plasma weapons.
More, yeah. I mean, right now,
remember when the I was gonna say the ammo types that they have
Yeah.
on the progress tracker, and how we haven't seen them.
Yeah.
We haven't seen them because Maelstrom isn't in, and the way that those ammo types will interact with ships will be dependent on Maelstrom and the armor that comes with it and engineering. So, and plasma was one of them, right?
You can get a ballistic plasma.
Yeah, plasma for melting the armor, ballistic for armor penetration, and hull penetration, lasers for taking down shields, sort of sci-fi tropes and stuff. But right now we have, HP number go down, lizard brain happy, and eventually it's going to be more than that.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan. I played a lot of Halo in the when I first got back into video games in the early 2000s, and when I think plasma, I immediately think of the Covenant plasma rifle, or the or the Covenant glassing weapons, because those plasma beams. So like, and then recently getting back into Doom and stuff like that. There's plasma weapons with Doom, and we know that there's plasma weapons like literally in Star Citizen. We have the Karna rifle, which is a plasma weapon. We know that the Covenant, which is literally talked about. That's why the Van Duel use plasma weapons for their weapons. All their pulse based weapons are plasma based. So it'll be interesting to see how they differentiate compared to like a laser weapon or an energy weapon or a beam weapon or a ballistic weapon. But yeah, I agree. More plasma. Captain Fishsticks asks, from a military's perspective, what addition would you like to see added to ground combat gameplay? I'll ask Tree this one.
I can see through Paul's transparent forehead right now, because I know he and I are thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
And the easy answer is artillery, or indirect fire. Mortars and artillery. We know that it has been said by John Crew that it's something that Chris Roberts wants in the game, and it will happen. Part of it is the tech of making weapons have a what is it, parabolic arc, right? Yeah. Is that the right word? I forget. I was not a cannon cocker. I have stroked some mortar tubes, giggity giggity. But I'm an infantryman and a medic. So the easy answer is artillery. It's just because it adds a whole lot to the game, both in terms of offensive capability, but also it is sustaining artillery is a logistical nightmare. And so I really think that if that they call artillery in the army, really the military in general, the masters of the battlefield. And if you want to master the battlefield and have artillery on your side, well, you have to sustain it, and good luck.
It's a lot of shells.
Yeah, a lot of shells. Big heavy things you have to move around. You have to have somebody calling for fire and stuff. It's one of those things where it's a bigger feature than people realize, and that's why it's not in. But eventually, it will be. So indirect fire for sure. We know it's going to happen. It's just going to have to execute on it, and but for me, it's getting things that. Oh, did my camera freeze?
Nope, you're good.
Oh, for a second.
Yeah,
For me,
it
it's a matter of
froze.
getting things into the game that are planned already and meaningful, not anything like new or exciting. And for me, it's the um, we know that engineering is coming for ships. The resource network is coming for ships. The resource network is going to be applied to your armor and suits, and getting that applied to your armor and suits, so that way you along with the medical and actor status, you are more involved and engaged in managing your character. Not just on the battlefield, but in terms of anything you're doing. You're salvaging out in space. You are hand mining, down on a planet, that's hostile, a hostile environment. Those things will be more impactful to your FPS gameplay, and that's what I want to see. Because not only is that more impactful for what you're doing, but also from a logistical standpoint, being able to sustain that gameplay as you're doing it with a group. Be like, okay, we need somebody to go back and get some replacement batteries for our suits, because we're running out of suit power, and if we run out of suit power, we're gonna bake, and we're gonna fatigue, because we're not you don't have maybe some like mechanical assist, from your suit for carrying stuff. There's a lot of different ways they can go with that, and they've talked about it at Citizen Cons and presentations before. I want to see that implemented, because that will take FPS gameplay to do for FPS gameplay what they're trying to do for engineering it with ships.
Yeah. This may be hard for you to answer, Warrior, but you're what would you think, or you want in a for like a first person like combat, either that sort of like ground combat experience in Star Citizen?
So, just by looking at like Star Citizen, when I saw like all the lore videos and just like IE and things like that, it basically just comes down to two things: just like showing a lot of weapons, like rifles and pistols, things like that, and ultimately it just comes down to ships. But I had only seen like a tank like literally once, and everything ground related when it comes to vehicles were like some sort of um like kind of, I forgot what those were called, but I think it was like consolidated outlands, like those hover bikes things,
Mm-hmm.
and or like those big armored transport vehicles.
Yeah, the
But when it comes
Spartans. Such.
to but when it comes to like certain things, like as you mentioned, now I think about it, like what Tree said, I never seen artillery before. I never
Yeah.
seen indirect fire. I never seen anything like that. But as he said, even if there was artillery there, it would be hard to like sustain. And I mean, here in Virginia, if you guys are wondering where I am, yeah, on the base there are like artilleries, there are cannons, there are people who are mortarmen, like Marines here who are mortarmen. And I was like, okay, so moving mortars is already difficult. Well, I won't say difficult, but is already like
Pain
a
in the
challenge
ass.
enough. But I was like, now imagine, yeah, I know. And I was like, and I saw this big cannons. I was like, now imagine moving one of those quickly.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, nah. So that's gonna be like a huge, difficult thing. But I'm thinking like, but if you had one of those, it would give you a huge advantage on the battlefield, because now you have support and all that. But the problem was, as Tree mentioned, sustaining it and maintaining it. Because what if something breaks on there, or if you run out of ammo, who's gonna go get it? Things like that. But something that always came to me when I saw Star Citizen was another game. I don't know if you guys know the game. It's called 6 Days in Fallujah.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So right now, that game, I did play a little bit of it, and if you play alone, your entire team.
Brother, I was there.
Yeah, I mean, you actually did play it.
Yeah. You played it. You played the real life version. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but
Boy, that VR was fucking gnarly, man.
but, I mean, when I played that game here, and basically you were a fire team, and the AIs were like just basically helping you out. And you were able to like give them commands, like suppress, or like watch it, like this sector of fire, or hey, hit knock that door down, and we'll like clear a room. I was thinking about like maybe something like that, maybe like having a little bit more AI.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know how good the AI is going to be, but like maybe if you're playing alone, you don't really have like friends that can like match your schedule or play along with you at the same time. At least maybe at least someone that could like support you, like a fire team or a squad, something like that.
Oh,
You know, kind of like an NPC as you see like in other games, like those NPC characters who are like essential to helping you out in missions, the story mode, things like that. So something that's a little bit more involved. But then again, that's just me speaking from like someone
you're,
who loves story. Yeah,
yeah.
who loves story and would like have a little bit more something that would help out someone who's just plays solo.
Yeah.
Yeah, as someone, yeah, right there. What's his name? Timbal? Like Ghost
Pinball.
Recon.
Ghost
Yeah,
Recon.
Ghost Recon Wildlands.
Yeah.
Like that. That was an amazing game. I did play alone, but the AI really did help out. So something like that. It makes it more enjoyable.
I'm not from the military, but I will step in because I know a Tier Kell is screaming somewhere in the background. You know, infantry fighting vehicle. Which we kind of get with the MTC. The latest MTC is sort of it's more like a scout vehicle of anything, but it's sort of like an infantry vehicle. But
It's
something
a
that's
Logi truck.
yeah, it's a Logi truck. It's
A launch
it's a baby MRAP, is what it is. It's baby's first, armored car. But the thing we need is this goes back into lore, is that for those of you who don't know, the Ursa is actually based off of a military vehicle. It's based off of the Marine Response Vehicle, the MRV, and the Marine
Oh,
Response
that makes sense.
Vehicle is designed to be small and compact, able to get out and leave, but it's basically an infantry fighting vehicle or slash APC, something like a modern striker platform.
Yeah.
So, I was like, if they just made that version, they just took the Ursa, armored it up, gave it tracks or whatever it needs, so gave it some uh, some protection or some altering use this, and then strapped like a size 4 cannon on that thing, it would probably serve most people well to be like, oh, maybe a tiny little baby turret, like a Bradley turret. It would,
Yeah,
I
just
think,
like the Storm and the Nova have bespoke turrets that are overpowered for their size compared to other things. You
yeah,
know, a bespoke size 3 or 4, like a Bradley.
yeah,
It's got no cockpit glass like
yeah.
the Ursa. Make it like the Nova, where it's what were they calling that? It
Digital,
projected.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The key was, and that's the thing. Whenever I talk about this, and with the actual tanker, as Tira, he always brings up that the problem is that the current tanks and vehicles in game, the tracked vehicles, are too big. They need something that's small that can be fit onto smaller ships, so you can deploy really quickly. Because in my experience playing FPS in this game, like the one time I've used the Ursa effectively was during the Hathor stuff. So with the line of the orbital drop stuff, where we dropped off an Ursa, a medical Ursa, and I was just driving around following the ground team as they were running into the buildings, including the buildings out, and I would stick outside the buildings because we didn't know who would show up. So I was there to effectively lay support down for them to bound from place to place, where I was in effectively an unkillable vehicle. So if an AI showed up and started shooting me, it wouldn't break through the shields. And if another player showed up, they wouldn't be able, unless they came prepared with like a railgun, they ain't gonna break my shields, so I can easily take them out. And if things got really bad and another like a ship came in, like a gunship to come attack us, I would have enough survivability where I could either drive away or at least attack back. And so that made me go, I want this bigger. I want this, but something that I could actually use. So, all right. Next question comes from. Oh, this got me. I forgot to turn the music on during our intermission. That's why. Pasternak. Okay, so there's a couple of different things coming in here. Specifically, as we're recording this in Germany, there's the Star Citizen Fan Convention Con 42 that's been going on. And many members of the Star Citizen development team are at Con 42, and they gave like a presentation and like a question and answer. So there's some information that's going to come out here. Passionek specifically is asking, have you seen the new info coming out of Con 42 with Jared and Thorsten? Supposedly, ballistic penetration and some form of armor is coming along with fire and the first part of engineering in June. That's not a question, sort of, but that does make sense. And you've already read the monthly report, right, Tree?
Oh yeah. Well, and it's not coming in June. There's no way in hell.
Yeah.
But they are. If you read through so this is one of those things. You got to wait for the dust to settle on all this stuff because there's, a bunch of people talking. There's gonna be translations and stuff. You got to wait to make sure that you're not playing the whole game of telephone. We already had that happen with was it the Beijing? It was Beijing, right?
Yeah, it was Shanghai. It was
Yeah.
Shanghai.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the part that wasn't the interview that we just got, the part that was actually at the Bar Citizen, they got to wait for the dust to settle to make sure that information is accurate and in appropriate context, because we've already had them come back and be like, had to clarify. And like I haven't watched the whole thing because it literally just happened while we were
while
on
we
here.
were recording.
Yeah, but and so I'm going to wait to hear it verbatim, because the pipeline is saying one thing and people are saying another thing, and so I have to hear it for myself. But I don't think 4.2 is going to be in June. Those patches, like it's always in July and stuff. That's a major patch and all that. I do think that we could start seeing EPTU, which is when those things come out, in June, and then it will spend however long in EPTU before and during the 4.2 patch cycle, and eventually see it, just like they talked about in the letter from the chairman. So not going live. You're not going to see this live in 4.2. We'll see this sometime in the summer. We'll be testing it maybe starting in June in EPTU, and it'll go through that cycle. But it's just like we've been talking about with the monthly reports, and it's why I was saying 4.2 patch cycle is when we're going to see engineering. It's probably we're going to see radar and scanning. At what point in that cycle, we don't know, but that's when it'll start testing and when it'll eventually be released in a 4.2.x.
Yeah. Yeah. If the question is 4.2 is when it's coming out, don't think that 4.2 is June. We might see a 4.12 in June, because 4.11 was just released, and you got to remember that they're still supporting 4.11 and all of this stuff. And the actual event of Invictus launch week, the Fleet Week, doesn't end until like
the last few days of May.
Yeah, it's like the last day of May. So they would have to release a PTU of 4.2, a huge update if it's going to include engineering and fire and all of that stuff. That's a huge major push. They'd have to release it into a PTU in the first week of June and release it to live by the end of the first week of June with a bunch of new features that they haven't done this year at all. They haven't done any new features. That sounds not feasible. That is a lot of work. Yeah, that's a lot of work, especially for people who are already doing a bunch of work for this big event that they're doing, and they're covering for that. So it's important to keep that in mind. That being said, as Tree and I both read the monthly reports and we talk about them, this isn't new. They've been talking about engineering and fire and scanning, and all these things have been planning to be coming out over the last since January. Since like December, November of last year, they in those monthly reports, they've talked about, they've never shut up about engineering and how the UI has been overhauled and how the systems work, the Delta V or the Delta signatures of the various ships, and how the pings will work and how the FPS radar will work. And so like it is extensively being built in the back end. We just don't see it because they want to focus on the stuff that's coming out soon. I don't understand the timeline. June 30th is still June. Sure, PTU early June. You can see it will release in June. I could see a PTU in June, but I think it's probably more likely going to be in July. And if it goes into ePTU in June, maybe. But whatever they're doing for 4.1.2, they still would need to focus on that, because they still need to have the QA focus on that part. They would still need to test all of the fixes and features they added in 4.1.2, make sure they're balanced, and any of those other fixes they would need to go over and ensure that nothing goes wrong. So, and because of how big engineering is, it's likely going to slip very quickly if they're planning to shoot it in June. So I wouldn't expect it in June. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think it's being planned for June, unless they specifically said on the live stream, engineering is coming in 4.2 in June. That sounds, oof. Is there going to be a 4.1.2? I don't know. We know that there's going to be a June patch per Xylo yesterday. He said that they will be releasing the stuff that they put behind the paywall, the stuff for the big drama and controversy, which we somehow managed to avoid, which is good. Thank you, chat. I didn't want to like throw Warrior Humble into the deep end and being like, how do you feel about this controversy you just heard about 5 minutes ago? But in an announcement, they said that they would release it in June, and so there's going to be a patch in June, we know, of some kind. So
yeah, and none of this this is, if engineering and scan, like if these things are meant for sometime during the 4.2 patch release, the 4.2 patch, they are pulling from the main dev branch.
Yeah.
They're doing a pull from the main dev branch. We have been on the same dev branch since 3.24.2.
Since
the same
October.
Since October. This will be the first pull, and that's part of the whole stability thing, is getting being on the same dev branch for a long time for them to be able to have the time they need to hammer out these bugs and figure out these fixes, so that way they figure out how to transition them back into the dev branch that the other staggered development team is working on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a big ask, and so what they're going to do is that 4.2 will be the first big pull from that main dev branch, but it won't all come at once because of how they're going to be rolling out features. So they may be testing in EPTU tech preview, same thing. It's go read the letter from the chairman, I promise. They may be testing that feature and in tech preview EPTU in June prior to 4.2's release, but it won't release with 4.2 whenever it releases in July or August. It'll release into 4.2.x in August, September, whatever, sometime during the patch cycle, just like we're having things getting added in 4.1.1, 4.0.1, all that. So it's it's exciting because they'll be pulling from the main dev branch, and we'll be having a new branch of development in the game that allows for these features to get added in that have been getting developed for a long time, but they're not all going to come at once. Again, go back and read the letter from the chairman, and you'll understand what they're doing.
I mean, honestly, if we're
sticking to the plan.
If we're getting the pull, if we're getting a pull from the main branch, the biggest thing that's going to come is for Warrior Humble to be able to play the game, because it will. One of the things they're adding is a new generation of rendering. So the full implementation of their new gen renderer, which is Vulkan, which you probably have seen if you play like Doom famously used Vulkan. A bunch of other games you've used Vulkan instead of DirectX to make their games. So it basically means that most Vulkan games are really optimized so that very low end computers can still run the games pretty well and still have pretty good graphics. So it basically takes. It used to be you could take a potato with Vulkan. You could a potato computer that was barely functioning, and if you played the game with Vulkan renderer, it would just run fine, perfectly. It looked good, maybe not perfect, but like looked good. And so that was one. There's been a lot of improvements to performance, but there's still some performance issues with the game, and that should clear out a lot of those performance issues, simply because it should bring up a lot of the game into the most modern rendering. So,
Vulkan multi-threading is is enabled within the main dev branch. Yeah. Last I read, and when that happens within that patch cycle, we don't know, but that's the intent.
Yeah.
When it's not just FPS scanning, it's radar and scanning. It's a holistic system. It's everything.
Yeah, it's your FPS scanning, it's your ship scanning, it's your vehicle scanning, it's long range, short range, mid range, your signatures.
Yeah, what they showed at CitizenCon with Squadron, those features.
All right. Commander Shadow Stalker asks another question for the captains. Favorite ship or ground vehicle that is presently in the verse and available to purchase or rent for UEC? And as a follow-up, favorite ground vehicle that is presently still in concept. So, Warrior, have you seen a lot of ground vehicles?
You
said you didn't see a lot, so
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say, but I mean, one ground vehicle I probably would go with because I'm like I just say it's pretty unique in a way because I've only seen one of it was that tank.
The Nova.
I forgot what it was called. Yeah, the Cobra. There you go.
Yeah, the
I was like,
Nova.
hey, Nova Cobra. Oh,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
one it was called?
Nova.
I think Cobra was what the tank was called in Halo, but
Oh yeah, yeah.
but I mean when I saw that I was like, oh, finally I saw a tank. I was like in Star Citizen, so I would choose that. But if I really had to choose a ship, um, there are several ships that like really caught my eye. Like for instance, if you like look at the two ship like there's two videos of the same ship. I think I saw one from you and one from Morphologist. It was the Scorpius
Oh yes.
because I kept on saying like, wow, that thing looks like a Star Citizen X-wing
Yeah,
from Star Wars. So
it's
I kept
good.
on saying like that looks really cool and I really like the design of it. Or I also like the one ship that kept on like coming onto my channel. I swear, like everyone kept on like mentioning it was the RSI Polaris.
Hmm.
Just like they kept on mentioning that ship so many times. I was like, all right, calm down. I'll look into it. And then I started looking into the ship, and I was like, wow. So it doesn't really take that much to like crew it. I was like, wow. I thought it was gonna be like take a whole lot of more people, but they're like, nah, man, you just need like just a sizable amount of people, and the rest can take care of itself. So when it comes to like my favorite ships, it's really hard to say because I'm still like kind of exploring and all that, but I will say I have been leaning a little bit more towards like combat ships
Hmm.
because that is like the area I've been looking into more. And the one I would say for right now would be the Scorpius.
Yes. All right. Tree. Favorite vehicle in game.
And we're saying ground
Ground
vehicles
vehicle.
and ships, or
The question was
I
just
just
ground
need
just
one
ground
vehicle.
vehicle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just ground vehicle. Ooh. Mm, I know. I logistics wins wars, and people are sleeping on the MTC.
Yeah.
And the MTC is only going to get more valuable and more important as the game develops, and we get features, like lockers and the resource network for your suits and armor. Um, the sustaining the whatever you're doing. The MTC is going to be good for that because you're not going to be able to just fly your ship everywhere, land your ship everywhere. Ground vehicles are going to be more important, and not just from a combat standpoint, but just support. Um, so I really like the MTC. I think they priced it actually well. $50 credit, 45 war bond. Like that's an LTI token with a whole lot of functionality. So yeah, it grew on me really fast. And in terms of concept vehicles, gosh, there's really not a lot of concept ground vehicles that we know about that aren't in.
The G12 and
I
the
mean, the
Ranger, the new
G12
ones. Yeah.
and the Ranger.
That's it. I don't think there's anything else.
If we're just talking about ground vehicles, then yeah, I'm not excited for the G12 or the Ranger. Like that's not my gameplay at all. I I would say we haven't got any. We've seen the things that they like the hover trolley for base building. The sorry, what's the Argo base building truck?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name of it though.
Which acronym is that? You guys know what I'm talking about.
Which
That one.
Argo version? It's like, yeah.
I'm in the military. I have too many goddamn acronyms. I can't handle this.
The FM.
True.
Yes. I love Argo. Argo is my favorite non-military style manufacturer. I have literally everything Argo. I can't help myself. It's like it uses drones.
Yeah.
Drone gameplay is one of the things I've been looking forward to for a long time, regardless of what style of drones it is, whether it's base building now or mine laying or repair, exploration. Like, I love the idea of drones, and I love what CIG has sort of concepted around drone gameplay. And so I'm really looking forward to having an Argo ground vehicle where I have drones hovering around and building my, my space hermit, military veteran bunker where where I can collect all my war trophies. And
I will say my favorite vehicle in game right now, if I was to use it a lot, is probably the NERSA, the medical NERSA. I've been calling for that ambulance forever. I've been like, it's just going to be an NERSA ambulance. I know it's going to be that. And when they came out, I was like, yes, mostly because it's such a useful vehicle. Like, A, it's a respawn point, so you can respawn to it. B, it's a type. I know, but it's also a size or a what do they call it? That class. It's a tier 3 bed. So if you go out and do FPS missions, if you do the kind of bunker missions, or you go on the Hathor, the likelihood of you either becoming getting food or drink too low, or getting just winged by fire, the amount of times I've seen people just get randomly hit by a freaking spitting Valakar is inside those places, just randomly show, or you turn a corner and it just like, there's a dude there. Like, there's just an NPC there. It's like, oh, I'm dead now, kind of moment where you just take a full shotgun to the chest and have to crawl your way out. And so you end up with like a tier 3 injury is just really high. So having that as just a quick, hey, get in, get out. And in fact, you can add it to any ship that can hold an Ursa, and you've got yourself a medical bed like instantly. It's a really good little vehicle. Yeah. And then on top of it, it's still an Ursa, so it's got 2 size 2s on the thing. So if you just need to shoot somebody, you can still shoot somebody with it. So it's great little vehicle. I found that that's the most useful and used vehicle for me for a while. So.
Between having that alongside a regular Ursa and the MTC, you've got all the things you need to sustain your squad, platoon, whatever. My only gripe was the whole region is always the thing. No, it's not. Shut up. But that is 100% the motto for the Army Medical Corps is conserve fighting strength. Mm-hmm. And the NERSA is what you use to conserve fighting strength on the battlefield along with your medics. With what they've talked about with medical gameplay, not only, you can heal a tier 3 injury, which is going to be the most common, but also, even if you can't heal the tier 2, tier 1 injury, the way medical gameplay has been sort of designed and concepted to work is you'd still be able to use that bed to essentially stop bleeding, stabilize a higher level injury, mm-hmm. but also provide better, longer term symptom treatment than what you can do with your med gun. So, okay, you give somebody a squirt of this, squirt of that with your med gun, and it treats their symptoms so they're back into fighting shape for 5 minutes before you have to squirt them again, and eventually you get to the point where your blood drug level's too high because you're not accurate enough with the gun. You go use a bed, essentially it's more accurate dosing that allows for you to go get this injury's symptoms treated, and you don't have to come back and get dosed again for 15-20 minutes versus 5. And your blood drug level is more manageable, so you don't overdose if you get hit again. That's what lower level beds are meant for. And I know it's a super foreign concept to people who don't know how medicine works, but CIG, in the way they have vaguely concepted medicine, is brilliant. How they execute it, I don't know. But so far, tier 0 is, from my perspective, being a critical care paramedic, like degreed, credentialed, teach this stuff, like Army flight paramedic, it's good. It can get a whole lot better, but the foundation is where they need it to be. Yeah. So the NERSA will have infinitely even more value in the future when symptom management and stabilization of injuries is a thing.
And the fact that it's a two person, so you could carry 2 people, you could have a driver and a medic, mm-hmm. so you can have somebody who has more specialties or carries specialty armor that can help those things out as well. And There's a lot of good.
Yeah, you can put your supplies in there. Your medic can go he's been doing medic things. Now he can go back to the Nursa and repack his kit and get back to the fight. Like, yeah.
And so someone did want to correct me. They said it's like, wait, a size 2, size. It's actually size 1s, which is why the new one, the MTC is actually better because they're 2 size 2s, I believe, on the MTC. So it's
Sounds right, I think.
So like that means it's even got more firepower than the Ursa. See weapons. Yeah, 2 size 2s. So yeah, so the MTC is even more dangerous than the Ursa. So yeah. And then in concept, it's obviously the Ranger. But if I'm gonna go with my forever answer is it's not in concept, it's not been sold yet, but the Titan suits. Give me my mech, CIG. Give me my mech. Give me my combat mech. So all right. We've got a couple more questions. Let's see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold on. Come down this here a little bit. We got like 16 or so questions left. Some of them are pretty quick though. Zergania asks, how do you think the storyline of the Hades system will play out? And when do you think it will be released? For those of you who don't know, the quickest response to the Hades system is that the Hades system is a star system that humanity discovered that had once had a fully intelligent, space-capable civilization that lived like 60,000 years ago. And sometime 60,000 years ago, something happened and they all died. They never left their system. They were all stuck in the system. One of the planets was literally cracked in half from some sort of massive energy discharge. There's still the remnants of their civilization scattered all over their planets with like evidence of like bomb craters and nuclear blasts and things like that. But there's no life left. And it's eerie because it's sort of Star Citizen's sort of spooky system. Not only is it sort of like, it's got these sort of crumbling structures that are underground and and above ground with barely holding together and all these secrets, but it also is the place where the Vara, the ship the Vara, came in to do some research in the system and it disappeared, which its disappearance became the basis for the Star Citizen version of Halloween called the Day of the Vara. Because the legend has it that on that day, the day it disappears, it shows back up as a ghost ship and boards other ships, and the crew tries to drag them back to hell with them, sort of thing. So it's a good old-fashioned, not maritime ghost story. And so the question is basically what's going to happen with the Hades system. I didn't even bring up the Hades cryptid. It's got its own cryptid. It's a weird dude with blue veins who is a bipedal person. It's transparent with just blue veins. It's a person made out of veins. I couldn't tell you what's going to happen in the Hades system, but I know whatever it is going to be heavily inspired by games like Dead Space, movies like Aliens, Event Horizon. Those sorts of things will definitely be heavily impacted. It's going to be the horror system, the system where you go in where the stories that you're going to uncover are all horrible or spooky and scary or mysterious. But the like rewards will be, strange alien technologies. So, what do you think, Tree?
So I do lore equals gameplay streams every time they do a Galactopedia update. And actually let's see. And okay, cool. I don't remember it too much other than the Hadesians. And the good thing is they added it to the Galactopedia. And so in terms of setting expectations, what I do is I cross-reference what's in the Galactopedia versus what was in the original Galactic Guide and see where things are different. And look and see what those vector changes are from one to the other, because they keep the theme, but a lot of times certain specifics will be gone. Paul's right. If you're looking for creepy, your scary aspects, that's what you're probably going to see in the Hades system. How far it goes beyond in terms of gameplay, that like this is where exploration is going to be, but not the terms of like scientific exploration, like more in terms of Indiana Jones type. This is going to be Star Citizen's Indiana Jones implementation. That's what I kind of expect for it. But I would always say just set your expectations based off what's in the Galactopedia, because the Galactopedia is the most up to date. Galactopedia has only been around for a couple of years. They've been making additions to it, and each time they add a new system or add a new article, you can cross-reference that against what they had put out before, and you can see how the themes have survived, what details got removed, and that will help you set expectations based off what CIG, is looking for. Not just for star systems, but for things related to gameplay as well. So yeah, that's my thought.
I would ask you, Warrior Humble, but I don't know if you even know
The Hades system.
Yeah.
No, I learned it a little. I remember a little bit from your complete history lore video, and yeah, that did kind of stick to me. But I'll just give a pretty short answer as to like what I think about it. First time I've ever heard about the Hades system and like how you explained it, like disappearance of ships and like those horror stories and things like that. The first thing that came into my mind was like the Bermuda Triangle, in a manner of speaking. I was like, so this is the Bermuda Triangle of the Star Citizen universe, and I was thinking like, and I'm not joking. This is the first thing I said. I was like, DLC.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. I was like, this is a great DLC content.
That's literally what it is. Yeah. So because it's not going to be coming out in 1.0, it's going to be coming out after the release of the game. So
yeah, so that was
thinking like during that presentation. I'm looking for the image, but wasn't there? Didn't they have a star map image, or am I just imagining a fan creation of, here's the 1.0 systems, and then out past that? I'm
like
trying to find it.
Yeah, didn't it like really expand or something?
Yeah, I think they did. I think I remember seeing that, of them expanding it a little bit more.
But that's just my thoughts about it. Yeah, that's just my thoughts on like the Hades system. I was like, this is gotta be the Bermuda Triangle. Like I was thinking like maybe you could travel there, you won't encounter like saying, oh god, the stories are true, and then you have to like fight your way out of there, and maybe there's like great great rewards, great things like that, exclusive content only for those who like purchase the DLC and who managed to get out of there, kind of like that. Because if you guys played Tom Clancy's The Division, that game, there's like a section in the map in both those games. I did play it, and it is on the channel, but it's not released yet. But there's a section of the map called the Dark Zone, and that's like the first thing that came into my mind as well. Because if you go into the Dark Zone, enemies are like 100 times more difficult, but the loot and the items you can get out of there is that much better.
Yeah.
So that's like the first thing that sometimes I like compare with the Hades system.
Well, yeah, and that actually makes sense, because one of the big things is that the planet that was cracked in two, a lot of human weapons companies in the Star Citizen universe think that the little planet cracked in half was cracked in half by a weapon. So they actually sponsor a lot of archaeological digs to go into those areas and try to find schematics for that weapon, because they want a weapon that could crack a planet in half. And so if they're doing it, that means there's pirates and salvagers and scavengers who are there looking for similar stuff to try to find these lost technologies. So you going in there would probably be filled with a lot of hostile people who are like, no, because no one's supposed to be there. It's all off limits. No one's supposed to be there, but people go there anyways because of all the different things. So,
well, that's usually how it goes. If places off limits or restricted, then there will always be people going, let's give it a try.
Let's go.
There's gonna be lots of archaeology there.
Yeah.
Relics, smuggling.
Oh yeah.
Paul will be happy.
There's a lot of potential, I say, in that system alone, in my opinion.
In fact, for those of you who are watching, who watch me do my archaeology expeditions, where we go off and like look for like the artifacts in game, if you see in game that says artifact flawed, damaged, That artifact is a Hadesian artifact. It's from the Hades system. So they're all over the game. There probably won't be forever, but the main idea is that there's been so much salvaging that people pulled out random artifacts from the dead civilization and are now holding on to it. So, Steakru asks, and I'll ask you this one too, where this is a good one. Do you think CIG should add a storylines that let the bad faction win, especially if players decide to let that faction win? Good example of that is we were talking about Helldivers 2. In the original Helldivers, you could lose.
I saw the ending, and I put it on my channel. Yeah,
we could lose as a community. We could lose the Super Earth, and Super Earth would be destroyed. So, and then they'd reset the map. So, like right now, we're in one of those factions, and in Helldivers 2, it's the Illimited are moving, making a beeline towards Earth. So humans could lose. We could lose this, but So, do you think something like that should be allowed in the game, to let like a faction like the Vandul ravage Earth or something like that in Star Citizen?
For me or Tree?
For you, Warrior.
Oh, okay. I would say personally yes, in my opinion, because now normally because it's pretty predictable at this point. Like whoever side you're playing will like win automatically because you got the plot armor. This is how it's gonna go. This is the script and everything. And one really recent comparison I can make right now is I just finished off, like I mentioned at the beginning of the live stream, was Assassin's Creed Rogue. But this time you're playing as the Templars, and the Templars win instead of the Assassins. So that it was like a nice little change of pace, and it like progresses into the story more too, because you're thinking like, we've never seen this happen before. We've never seen them win before. So I would say this will be really cool. And it could add a little bit more suspense and a little bit more into the story, because if the enemy factions win, sorry guys, spoilers
for a game that came out in like 2010 or whatever. It was a contemporary game to Assassin's Creed Unity, y'all. It was a while ago.
No, not only that, you can literally see the guy on the poster like whose side he's on.
Yeah.
And if you're playing him, it kind of goes in one direction. But anyways, like I said, if you kind of let the enemy win like a little bit here and there, it will keep it like more suspenseful, because now you're thinking like, what's the next course of action? What are we going to do now? How are we going to win? Things like that. So I say that would be a good addition in my opinion, because it keeps people on their toes, and it won't be like, oh, so it's not like the usual like we win, the good guys win happily ever after. This is something that like takes a different direction, and now, oh my god, no, this is not how I pictured it. So this could go in like 100 different ways now. So that's why I think it adds a little bit more creativity, keeps the players and people more curious. So when it comes to like, stay tuned for something like this, and like say another trailer comes out, they'll be like, oh, maybe this answers my question. So I said that would be really good for like keeping the audience engaged.
Yeah. Tree, your thoughts? You think they should they should allow for the quote bad factions to win in case of especially if the players don't stop them?
I know everybody says Vandul and Rome, Constantinople, blah blah blah. I don't see that happening, but I do, and I would like to see, like, a lot about the conflict in the Nexus system.
Yeah.
We've heard a lot about that. That's arena commander maps and everything. That is the Nexus system is sort of the template for what the CFP would want to see in Pyro. The Nexus system actually has the UEE, both UE military and advocacy, going toe-to-toe with the pirates and criminals within that system in order to pacify the system. And they are actively trying to colonize it and essentially gentrify it. And it's not going well because, of course, the UE's strapped for resources because they're fighting against the Vandul and trying to retake previously held systems. Now, the easy implementation of that would be to allow for Nexus to convert back to a pirate criminal held system. We don't have enough of those really as it is. There's a bunch of developing, and unclaimed systems, but really, like, in terms of what Pyro, Null, and Cathcart are, they're really it when it comes to, unlawful pirate sort of controlled, and
Council
Nexus
space,
is
as we could say. 'Cause
exactly council space. There's other ones systems that aren't UE controlled, but there's no overarching narrative that the pirates and the criminals control it like those three do. And Nexus is sort of in between right now, and I would like to see that get pushed, in that if we don't like if you said, if we don't do enough to help the UAE, it converts back to to a Cathcart, to a Pyro, to a null type system, and you have a setback for the lawful factions of of the verse. And then of course the ultimate version is the back and forth battle of attrition of fighting alongside the UE military to try and retake those previously human systems. There's 4 of them.
Mhm.
The giant battlefields where the UEE is going to be spending money hand over fist to to shore up their lines, to allow their fleets to get to take the fight to the Vanduul, or to help out with their logistical efforts. Like, that's where hey, you don't do enough, sweet, we don't win the invasion of Virgil, we have to come back next month.
No, I agree. I think I didn't think about Nexus. Nexus would be a great place to go. And I also think the earliest place we could see something like this is Nyx. Because I think once CIG gets beyond 1.0 and they have more systems, I could totally see CIG going, y'all need to defend Nyx. We're not going to pull back. Like, Nyx is under full attack. There's a kingship here, and the UEE isn't coming. So it's up to you alone to defend Nyx. Can you stop them? And if you don't, you don't. And if the players don't, then Nyx becomes a Vanduul system. I can see that happening.
We're gonna get Vanduul space hippies.
Very chill Vanduul.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Put that in your spear and smoke it.
Elaine Anderson asks, at Tree, how would you edit the current implementation of medical gameplay with the constriction not to toss aside, but build upon the existing lore and recent changes? Tier 3 beds and can respawn. So basically, you can't get rid of tier 3 beds respawning. How would you build upon this with the current system to improve it?
Oh, I can't get rid of tier 3 beds respawning?
No, basically, if you couldn't do that, how would you improve it?
I hate this question. How dare you?
It's his Redeemer. I know.
Yeah, it is 100% my Redeemer. In fact, I hope C Daddy isn't watching.
Yeah.
No, it's the my issue is if you it from a medical logistics standpoint, it makes 0 sense to implement regeneration into a field triage device. From a medical logistics standpoint, it makes 0 sense for this to be for them to put regen into the front. There is so much lore and so much logic behind it that this shouldn't be a thing, because CIG did their homework when they wrote all this out. And it's not just regen, but it's the whole medical thing. And that's the only way this you could fix it, in my idea, is it make it be so prohibitively costly in terms of resources, as well as hurting, permanently hurting your imprint viability score. But then people just won't use it, and then it's like, well, why have it in there in the first place? Which is why it wouldn't be there in the first place. If you want to learn about the regen lore and how medical's been designed and concepted, like, I've gone over this on my content a couple of times now, and I made a short form video, because we don't need field regen. We need NPC trauma teams. We need medical gameplay. We need you to get downed as a player, and then instead of backspacing, you didn't die. you went unconscious and you woke up in the ER, just like you do nowadays. Like, this is my life, my whole life. When people go unconscious because they got shot and they had blood loss, but we get them to the ER and they didn't die, they woke up because someone got them to where they needed to go, and stabilize them on the way. And so this is one of those things where there isn't a saving it because it doesn't need to exist. Now, sure, they could make it so that way, it hurts but why have that, and why take on that balancing headache? It's just an unnecessary. It's a problem that CIG have created for themselves that didn't need to exist.
I've heard that term before.
Oh,
a
God.
1,000 times.
Yeah. And I love the idea of regen, and I love the idea of the imprint viability score and scanning, your imprint scanning and everything. It's well crafted lore that it fills in the gap for Death of a Spaceman. They did a great job with it, and then they supplemented it with so much more information that, again, people aren't aware of. T-Jack, what about people exploring empty systems? What about the people? You're cool. Go prepared. What do you think happens to people when they go exploring right now and they get injured? Like, you can argue with me about this, but this is the industry that I am an industry expert on. When people go explore in Antarctica or the Himalayas, or they go do something in someplace dangerous here in the US, they have a medical plan. And, if you die, you die. And then you have to, start, like, we have regen so that way you don't permanently die. That's all it's there for. So if you don't permanently die, the point is to avoid dying. And that's the thing is, right now we don't have appropriate time to kill. They're getting better with it, but we don't have the time to kill where we need to be. You have to imagine your character the way that CIG has been talking about ships, because that's how they've been talking about your character since the very beginning. Is your ship, they don't want your ship to go big kaboom. They don't want your character to go big die. It's the perfect analog. They want your ship to be damaged and you to repair it. They don't want you they want to mitigate the use of claiming it and using insurance. The whole, and people have to separate the idea of respawn, meaning death, respawn meaning regeneration. Because it doesn't change a whole lot. It just means that you were downed and you had injuries and you went unconscious, and then you woke up because an NPC came and got you. That's been the whole plan. Regen is only supposed to be there for catastrophic, to explain your Aurora getting hit by a size 9 torpedo. It's only there to explain you taking a sniper rifle shot to your unprotected head.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, and I'm saying a medic won't always be on call. That's the point. You got downed, and there are services for this meant in game. It's in the lore. If you go if you go back and watch Paul's show, and I can drop the link, if you want to hop in Paul's Discord, I've got all the links, all the citations. When Paul says I bring the receipts, I've got the Walgreens receipt for everything regen and everything medical. Because CIG has fleshed this out, but people don't know about it because people don't read the lore. People don't listen to what CIG has said in the game design part. If you go explore in the Himalayas and you get injured, there are companies that will charge you a fucking arm and a leg to bring you back to civilization. Or there are companies that will say, hey, okay, cool, you're going to go do this dangerous thing in the Congo, and we will provide full, medical support, everything that you need. It's going to cost you, but we'll provide it. Those companies are gonna be in Pyro. They're gonna be in Null. They're gonna be on the Fringe. They're gonna exist. They've already talked about them. It's in the 1.0 roadmap. So all regen is supposed to be for is catastrophic death. Otherwise, either a player comes and revives you at scene, or an NPC magics you back to a station, the nearest station or the nearest Endeavor galaxy, whatever. That's what all this is for. CIG. Sorry, I'm going on a rant, but CIG.
They hit your button. That's
people
why.
are like, people are like, well, CIG isn't going to go this in depth, and I'm like, have you been paying attention at all to how? Why would they? We have physicalized hand loading of cargo.
Yeah.
And you think they're going to neuter medical gameplay. Why is that the line in the sand that people think that CIG is going to fall back on and be like, you know what, we've said all this over the last 14 years, and we did all these other physicalized and gamified but realistic things, but you know what, we're going to walk back on medical gameplay when we've sold all these ships and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like,
Elaine Anderson just are they a regular in your channel? Because they knew how to push your button.
Yeah, someone new, and if you want to talk offline with me,
ready.
I will happily share all the information and all the links because it's good reading.
Yeah,
like Paula said, the narrative team did a good job writing this and explaining it and filling in the gaps. And it doesn't need, we don't need Surgeon Simulator at all.
No,
they just need to expand on what we have.
All right, we're gonna move on to, we got a couple more questions. I'm gonna cut through a lot of these pretty quickly because I'll go through Bracer Phoenix's questions really quick. Does the Idris change the way we play the game? Yes and no. If you were playing the game as a miner in your golem, not going to help you, not going to affect you at all. If you're just a solo player in Aurora, you'll never have to worry about an Idris, because I've flown in an Idris and it's a boat. It turns like a boat. It is not going to, you can just walk away. I like to describe it as like facing off against an Idris is like an old geriatric and a walker holding like a bazooka. As long as you can outturn the geriatric, that bazooka is not going to hit you. In fact, you could probably go behind the geriatric and knock them out before they even are able to turn against you. That's kind of how it is. Or in this case, you could just briskly walk in one direction and then leave, and they wouldn't be able to catch you. Because it is dangerous, but it is super easy to outmaneuver if it's not supported, which is exactly how ships like that are designed to work in gameplay, because they're supposed to be dangerous but easy to foil without proper support. Kind of like a tank in modern military terms. It's like a tank is pointless without infantry support. It's going to get outflanked and get destroyed unless it has support with it, in general. So no, so I think it will change it, because the people who want to have the big group gameplay, they want to be able to land in their ships and coordinate better. Yeah, no, 100%. It's going to change the big group gameplay, but the day-to-day gameplay of you, probably not. What do you think, Tree?
It's not the ship itself. It's the, and like we just talked about, they're talking about engineering coming soon. No, I think up and really the only thing more so would be the Javelin, but no other ship is going to be able to maximize the implementation of engineering and Maelstrom and all that like the Idris.
Mm-hmm.
So it changes the gameplay in terms of like, oh, sweet, now we can have Idris versus Polaris fights, but it's still gamified and dumbed down compared to what they're going for. But when, and in not a very long time, it's going to expand by an awful lot. And I think that's where the Idris changes it, not so much because it's the Idris, but because of what the Idris brings to the table in terms of features that it will carry with it. We talk about refueling. You can add more missiles, but they've been talking about rearming ballistics recently and everything. All that will be tied into the resource. It's resource network. And so we're going to be getting the Idris. We have the Idris. We're going to be getting engineering gameplay soon. Very soon. And in the not too distant future, engineering gameplay and resource network is what's going to allow you to refuel your Gladius in the hangar of your Idris and put more ballistic ammo back in it, on top of the missiles. We can already repair it, but be able to do even more than that. So that's where things are going to change a whole lot versus, okay, well, now I have to go back to a station and slow boat in there and request a hangar,
Yeah. Warrior, I don't know how much you know about the Idris or have seen about the Idris.
I've seen some videos about it, so but I've been also reading like some of the chat, and I think they were also kind of like saying the same thing I was thinking too, because this is not like one of those like starfighters where you could just like pilot on your own and everything will be well. this is like something that you would require like a crew to like operate. But the thing is, one thing that I did notice is like this isn't one of those ships that it could just like go out there alone and everything will be fine. It's like one of those like support ships from what I noticed. I mean, sure, it could defend itself, sure. I mean, up to it, up to an extent, and maybe has some firepower here and there, but it's like more of a support ship. And yeah, I forgot who it was that, but someone did mention saying like it would be something about fighter escorts. So I'm thinking, okay, yeah, that would be great as well. So if you're on your own piloting that ship, sure, you could get from like one place to another, but you come under attack, you're pretty much cooked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how I see it.
It just has a beam.
It does. It has a laser beam.
The beam.
The beam.
The beam to end all beams.
You've not been
that we have
around
so
the
far.
you've not been around the community a lot. We're humble, but like early on in the community, a lot of people wanted to have like everything to be physicalized. So like having like this is not exactly what it is, but like having to find a vein so that you can insert an IV to get people going, like that level of detail, like a super detailed interactions.
Wow.
And CIG is, over the last 6 or 7 years, we're like, yeah, we're not doing that. That's too hard and that's insane. We're gonna scale it back a little bit. And so their solution was beams. So like science fiction, tractor beams, medical beams, that sort of thing. So people very much derided like Star Citizen as Beam Citizen. But I think a lot of people are coming to the point of like, no, this is Beam Citizen. That's good. It means that we can do more things. It means you can have, you can medical somebody without having to like puncture their suit and have to deal with all those issues. And
so there's 2 quotes on that. Is beams are how you introduce the mechanic without fancy animations, without fancy VFX and all that. But you press the button and you get the result you want. And they are able to get it in and start balancing. And then artists and designers can come back in and make it cooler later. And so there will be more physicalization, more, less beam. Yeah, they have talked about that. But it does require a whole lot more dev time to make it look cool, but it doesn't change the functionality.
Yeah.
And so certain things are meant to be beamed because it's tractor beams. What's more sci-fi than tractor beams? Like you're not going to make a better version of that. But the mining laser is a mining laser. Like that's pure sci-fi. It's but other things aren't going to be beamy because they don't need to be beamy in the future.
Yeah. But I am wholeheartedly of the beam variety. I want more beams, and the fact that one of the major guns you can get on the Idris is a giant laser beam. Like, yes, more laser beam. It's literally a giant laser beam that can fire 5 kilometers in space, and just anything it touches it gets fried.
Wow. I think I did see that once. Yeah.
The commercial, they did an Idris commercial that showed it off. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah. No, it's not Idris set phaser to stun. It's Idris set phaser to sun. All right. The prisoner asks, okay, this is a good one. How did everyone get their names? I'm going to start with you, Warrior, because I've heard Tree before and myself. So where does your name come from?
Yeah, I saw that question way earlier when we started this Q&A, so I knew this was going to come up. So, basically, my channel name, Warrior Humble, was not my first choice, actually. It was actually something else. It was originally called, this is something that I was like thinking about because I was thinking, what would my channel be about? What would it originally contain and things like that? So I was thinking really hard. And here's the thing about me. I'm an economics major. And also on top of that,
yay, the depressing science. I teach economics and history for high school, so I like it. So yeah.
So I'm an economics major, and also on top of that, I'm like really big into like technology and things like that. And one game that like inspired the very first name I had for the channel was Watch Dogs. And there was that game was amazing because I really love like all the hacking it was in it. But anyways, one of the characters that was in there that really stood out to me was named Default. And I was like thinking, hacking and things like that. But I mean, one thing was like Default, and also I was thinking like, default, because it reverts everything back to like original settings.
Yeah.
So the original channel name was called Default Gaming. So that's what it's originally called. And the main purpose of my channel originally was basically I'm gonna just play gameplay, but however, it won't even show me at all. It was like one of those no commentary, no
Yeah. Just
like
game.
face
Yeah.
recording, gameplays. But the thing is, the problem was there's already so many channels of that, so I knew for a fact that this was not gonna like take off. So I was thinking, man, I gotta find something unique and things like that. But I decided to also change the name. So how I got the name Warrior Humble was, you know how like Mr. Beast got his name? It was just like a random name generator when he was like playing Call of Duty.
Mhm.
So it was kind of something similar like that. There was a name generator on Google. I don't know. I still forgot how I came across it, but it was like this war name generator, and it asked like several questions. And it was about the Wu-Tang Clan. They're like, if you were part of the Wu-Tang Clan, what would your stage name be? So there was like 5 different questions on there, and it says, it was like a drop-down menu, and say like, put like each one, like select each one, like what are 5 characteristics about you, and what are your like initials. So my initials was WH, and the 5 questions that asked like what are 5 characteristics, I said, okay, introverted, let's see, and I forgot what the other ones were, but it was something like that.
Yeah.
And it like, and then it generated like 3 different names. The first one was Rough Samurai. I don't know how that happened. And the other one was Warrior Humble. It came out here. And the other one was, I forgot. I think it was like Defiance or something like that. But the reason I chose Warrior Humble is like because that is my name initials.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm sticking
That's
with this
perfect.
one. So that's how I got the name for my channel, and it's been like that since like August like 2023.
Nice. Yeah.
So that's how I got the name.
Now, Tree, you've explained this before, but how did you get your name?
Tree is just the mispronunciation of the first part of my last name. I've been called Tree by my friends since my freshman year of high school, and it followed me through the Marine Corps because I joined the Marine Corps with my best friend from junior high. And it followed me to the fire service after that, and has since followed me through my paramedic career. So, but 0311 0311 is my first infantry MOS, and so I started. I was in 0311, my first deployment. I went to. I was an 0331 machine gunner for my section, my second deployment, machine gun team leader, and now I'm a 68 Whiskey Fox 2 critical care flight paramedic with the Army. So, it's been my screen name for 20 years.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, my original name back in the Xbox Live days was Berserker 01. And that's where the Berserker 01 comes from. And the reason why that was because whenever I played video games back at old couch co-op, couch split screen attack, like game time, when I was playing those, I would always play really aggressively when we were doing, fight matches against each other. So the name Berserker came up because I would literally charge at my, go straight into my friends when I was trying to, because I knew they were often in these games like shooters and stuff, they were better than me, but I knew that I could beat them if I got into their face and disrupted their actions. I later learned there's an actual military term for it, which is violence of action. It was basically I was just doing violence of action every game I played. If I didn't know what I was doing, I would just throw myself as hard as I could, as quickly as I could at my opponent, get to outbalance them, and hopefully I could beat them. And so that became my nickname. But then when I was evolving the brand and I wanted to do more than just be an aggressive player, I was trying to rebrand, and the idea that I was already going with was like a space bar, that was the idea, but the space bar seems too generic. So I was talking to my friend Grockies at the time, who's doing still a friend, but like he's a former content creator, and he suggested, well, you're doing space bar, why don't you do the Astropub, like a gastropub, the Astropub? I was like, oh, that's actually really neat. That's cool. So it's the Astropub. Fun fact, There is only one other name, Astropub, that I could find recently, which is a bar in Boca Chica, which is where SpaceX is located, which was named like 2 years after I'd already started my channel as the Astropub. So I technically have a copyright claim against them if I wanted to go down that route. I don't want to. It's just they're like it's a really small bar. It's like a tiny bar, but it's neat. So go down if you're down in Boca Chica, or if you're watching this and you work at SpaceX, go tell them I approve of their bar name, even though I technically have the rights to it.
Oh, hey, Paul, I want to just add this in. I mean, this is a little fun fact as well. So there was another idea I was having to like put as my channel name. It was another name was Shinobi, which is Japanese for ninja.
Ninja, yeah.
And the reason for that is because like several of my guys and Marines in my platoon and things like that, we have like nicknames like call signs.
Yeah.
Like here at training, we literally had one guy whose call sign was Holy Water, and that has been his like call sign for the last 5 years. And the reason why he was called Holy Water is because he does not drink, he does not smoke, he does not do anything like that. He's pure like holy water, and that's how he got his nickname. But
Yeah.
I'm the same thing too. Like I don't drink or smoke anything like that. But how I got that nickname was one time we were out in the field and I had Firewatch. And Tree, you already know what that is. But so one time we had Firewatch and it was like in the middle of the night. It was like from 0-100, like midnight, all the way to 2 in the morning. So it was cold. So we had like I had like my Gore-Tex over my camis, and I had a black balaclava on. So basically, they're like anything black or coyote brown is authorized. So I was like, okay, well, I only got black, so this is all I got. And so it looks like a ski mask, and all you can see is my eyes, and it really did look like I was a ninja. So when I went to go wake up my friend who was who was the next shift for Firewatch. So the thing is, the field was like had like several floodlights. So you know how like if you stand in like a floodlight, you kind of look like a silhouette. So it kind of looked like that. So when I went to his tent and I woke him up, the floodlight was facing towards his tent, like at an angle that it made me look like a silhouette. So I like, hey, bro, it's your time. Just your time to do Firewatch. And then he like woke up and he looked at me, and all he saw was a silhouette and someone's face that was covered. And I startled the hell out of him. He was like, "Oh shit!" And he like grabbed his rifle. I'm like, no, calm down. It's just me. And he's like,
It's just me.
I had to like, yeah, and I had to like take this thing off and like, look, it's me. And he's like, bro, why'd you do that? You can't be doing that. I was like, what do you mean, like waking you up? And I was a lance corporal at the time. So the corporal, the guard came by and he's like, bro, what just happened? I'm like, it sounded like someone was being attacked. And then he was like, bro, I thought I was. And then after that, the next morning, we were just like going around because some people actually heard that like startling commotion. And some people were like, what happened? And he was like, Hong, he scared the hell out of Rodriguez. And then, okay, that's my last name, Hong.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I scared the hell out of it. And then they all came to me. I was like, what did you do? And I was like, I woke him up. I was like, what do you mean I didn't do anything? I just woke him up. And then after that, he's like, bro, he came at me like a ninja. I didn't even hear him, nothing. And he even looked like one. And then after that, I don't know why I said, so kind of like a shinobi. And he's like, wait, what? And I was like, oh, that's what ninjas said in Japanese, shinobi. And then one time I had to be a gate guard, and then they gave me a radio. And then the corporal, he's like, hey, hey Hong, what do you call the ninja again? I was like, shinobi. I was like, good, that's what you are. And then,
So that just became your
that was my
nick?
call sign ever since.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, but I almost named my channel that too.
That would have also worked.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, what should I think? Oh, this next one. Next question is Commander Shadowstalker asks, for the captains, which gameplay loop do you personally think is the most polished in Star Citizen? And which gameplay loop do you think Star Citizen should bring up to par next? I think mining is probably the most polished. It's been the longest.
Easy.
Say like maybe mining or salvaging or
Yeah. Salvage has been around for a while now, and it's gotten a lot more updates, especially with the things like the snap, I call it the Thanos snap, because it's like, you vibrate it, and then when it's done, you just kind of, it turns into little particles, and you suck up the particles into your ship. But it looks
yeah, I see a lot of like inside Star Citizen videos about
Yeah.
like salvaging and like mining here and there. So I just like think about those two.
I think salvaging will be a lot more interesting once all the ships have all their components and they can. I'm sure there'll be an economy balance to that in order to incentivize people EVAing and going into ships, that are wrecked and taking their components and everything. That's wreck diving is my peak gameplay, besides medical. And right now wreck diving is, man, because some ships have, you can't, you can't really loot a whole lot when wreck diving. A lot of the components aren't there, so it's got a ways to go. But mining for sure is most fleshed out after combat, which what needs to be brought back up? Medical.
Yeah.
Medical.
I will say that's kind of connected to medical. Bounty hunting. Bounty hunting needs is too basic. We need to be able to track down, disable, capture, transport, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. But they can't tell us about it because they've already said it's coming at this year. Like bounty hunting is.
Oh, where have I heard that before?
Yeah,
pyro. Like
bounty hunting's been this year for 3 years.
Yeah.
And we like you need medical to be in a better position for bounty hunting to even exist because you need to be able to disable somebody.
Active status.
Yeah, the active status of system. So, all right, we are almost done. Yeah, can we affirm B Citizen with a new Idris K weapon? You already talked about that one. This is a simple one that I can answer pretty quickly. Does the Argo MPUV still the backbone of the UEE, or is it now the Idris? The Argo MPUV will forever be the backbone of the UEE because what's the old quote? Amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics. Logistics will always be the king of battle, and without logistics functioning properly, you can't get anything there. So without that tiny little thing that sticks in the bottom of an Idris, that Idris would never get cargo while it was in underway. It's 3 months out.
You wouldn't be able to cross-tech people.
Yeah.
You can't send a boarding party.
Yeah.
Without logistics, yeah.
Yeah, and that little thing. It carries a small little cargo bay, but it also has those tractor beams where it can bring in larger stuff around with it. That little thing is 100%. It's a nice little Collier support ship, and without that, nothing can function. So yes, it's still very much the backbone. All right. Who bought the blades? That's a good question. I didn't buy any of those blades. Did you buy any of the blades, Tree?
Not a fucking chance.
Yeah, you and I both don't like that. But I saw a lot of people who bought it for the skin because they like the skin, and CIG bundled it. So, but right, we got a couple more. Oh, Boombellissimo asks, not so much for Humble. Valk is $375. C2 is $400 with 696 SCU. Do you think where do you think the Asgard will fall with 180 SCU? I think it actually might be cheaper than the Valk. I think technically it has less weapons than the Valk.
It's got more pilot controlled weapons, but overall.
Yeah.
And the hard thing is, again, people are, just like people are sleeping on the logistics of the MTC and how important logistics are going to be with all the, suit lockers and resource network for characters and suits and all that. And they're going to dial back how much you can carry in your backpack.
Mm-hmm. They
buffed it up for temporarily. It's going to get dialed back. You're going to have encumbrance. That's going to happen. The John Crew talked about the if you haven't watched it, but like he talked about it during the Bar Citizen, and I think he talked about it in the SCL thing that went live yesterday. But he talked a little bit about what they're going to do to make dropships and the role of dropships fit in, realized within the game, because they've had a plan. There's always been a plan. People again just didn't read it and don't know about it. But there's multiple things that make a dropship versus just a transport, and having everybody lay down in the cargo bay.
Mhm.
And those things just aren't in game yet. But those things still impact to an extent the Asgard. So I think it's probably just going to be plus or minus around the Valkyrie, because instead of people, you've got a vehicle and or cargo. But you're still going to have if people don't remember, they talked about this on I think it was one of the all vehicle Q&As, the thruster tech that they built for the Fury,
Mhm.
to have them independently rotate based off of the intelligent flight control system, that will get applied to any ship that has rotating VTOLs. Like the Valkyrie, the Legionnaire, there's other ships that have them. In order to
Cutlass has it. So
it is part of your flight characteristics. And so if you remember from the Valkyrie commercial, how it comes in and the VTOLs rotate forward in order to brake and do all that, the aggressive maneuvers that you'll be able to pull for takeoff and landing, that is part of what makes a dropship. That's in the lore for the Legionnaire. It's a big part of the lore for the Legionnaire. So it's not something that they haven't talked about or planned. So that's part of what's going to make the Asgard great is the thrust to mass ratio for the Asgard is phenomenal in terms of vertical thrust and stopping power, but it also having the additional wings, you've got the additional lift. Don't sleep on it. I hope it's not more expensive. I'll be upset, but I think if it's around Valkyrie, I think it's okay.
I think it's gonna be like 350. My guess would be like 350, 370. Just because they also said that one of the major ways they price things is based off of weapons. So the more weapons it has, the more expensive it becomes. And this is tiering back weapons from the Valkyrie, technically. So like the 2 door guns are gone, plus the 2 wing guns are gone. So it's just like the bottom.
The door guns are there, but you don't have the wing guns, the remote wing guns.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird thing is the missile turret thing seems to be, I guess, slave to the pilot.
Yeah, I think it's slave to the pilot.
It's got a lot of pilot controlled weapons, but you lose the remote guns. You don't have a turret up top. You just have the missile turret. And it's hard to know. I don't know.
So it's basically like the front pilot controlled and the back pilot controlled, and then there's a turret at the bottom, and that's it. So the missile pod is pilot controlled. So and it's in the back, the 2 in the back. So I think it's probably going to end up being cheaper, because that tends to be what they do when they have these ships that are sort of like new versions of an old ship. They tend to make them cheaper. Like the Paladin was cheaper than the Redeemer, because they're both gunships, and they wanted to make sure to differentiate them, because the Redeemer has a lot more functionality. It's got dropship capabilities. It's got long range. It's 4 or 5 people can control most of the ship. So it's got some benefit to it, whereas the Paladin, it's got a lot beefier guns, but it's got like 3, 4 people can pilot it, and that's it. There's no dropship capabilities. It's smaller, all that kind of stuff. So
my only gripe is they fixed the interior, but they didn't fix the interior of the Valkyrie at the same time.
Yeah, to make it seal, so you don't have to like you don't like vacuum out the air for the pilot, for the people sleeping. Imagine you have to sleep in your full spacesuit kit the entire time if you're on patrol.
The other thing that would be really funny is if they made a sound effect for when you run into the glass.
Oh, dunk
in the Asgard.
Yeah. All right. John Chaves asks, what level of RP is too far for you? I'll start with you on that one, Tree. You mentioned like role play and stuff like that.
Oh. I guess there's people who don't break character.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, turn it off for a second. We're trying to have an adult conversation.
Yeah.
That's or especially if they are RPing and you are not.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, bro, no, I appreciate that you're RPing and stuff like that, but I'm not. So if you could just interact with me normally for just a minute, yeah.
I'm okay with people who are role playing, but like you can always tell somebody who's a role player who's also done acting, who's done some acting, who's done some improvisation, because like a
Like a little
good
theater.
yeah, a little theater into it, because like there's a couple people I've hung out with before. It's like with the way they do the role play is they're so engrossed in the role play, but they're not moving away from the realities of the game. So everything in the role play is part of the game rather than being, some sort of other thing, some exterior thing. So like they can deal with all the situations in the game. They might have some weird decisions. They might say, a lag might be, oh, I'm getting a headache or something like that. But other than that, it's all focused in on the gameplay itself, and you're just playing out the reactions of the gameplay. That's fine with me.
Like I voice act when I'm in a TTRPG. Like I go full bore.
Yeah,
but you can press pause on it for a second. You know,
and I think there's a level of RP where you just don't turn it off at bad times when it's like when some shit's happen. You gotta have a safe word.
I just said they gotta have a safe.
And then of course there's that level of RP, which I'm okay not being in Star Citizen. All right. How about you, Warrior? Any level of like what's the maximum number of cringe you can deal with role play?
So I say the because the amount of roleplay I actually experienced was not Star Citizen but Helldivers 2.
Mm-hmm.
So one time this is when I was still like brand new to Helldivers 2 a little bit, and I threw an SOS beacon. And this guy literally dropped in and says, "Which way to spread democracy?" And then I'm like, "Whoa, wait, hold on." I'm so new to this. I'm still trying to figure this out. And then he's like, he literally looked at me and said, "Diver, throw your I forgot what he said. Like this, spread your like democracy or like explosive cup of liberty in that direction." I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Just toss the grenade." So I was like, well, I made him break up roleplay a little bit, but it was all good. And then he kind of like got out of it when we like finished the mission and we got back onto the ship a little bit. But then like when we like dive into it, that's like when he like gets into it.
Yeah.
So I say like it is here and there. I mean, it is good here and there. I was like, it made great content. But yeah, for like those who are like really hardcore and just would like go through it 24/7.
Yeah.
I would say like there's gotta be a moment where you gotta like kind of dial it back a little bit, and then we could just like go back into it when we were like on mission or something. But yeah, I mean some of the like I said, I say roleplay would be really great if I was a little bit more experienced. But the way he like said things, I'm like, hey, look, man. All I know is how to shoot this rifle, how to call in a stratagem.
Yeah.
When you tell me to toss explosive liberty that way, I have no idea what you mean.
That reminds me of a like this CIG is going to make the worst decision of all time when they actually put in there's a guide system where you like if new players you can go onto like the website and ask for help, and then they'll pair you up with somebody who's waiting and that stuff. And eventually they're going to put that in game where like somebody who's like a new player needs some help, you can go into the guide system and someone will come in. And I'm like, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be the worst person to guide, the best and worst person to guide, because have you seen Super Troopers? It's an old comedy show, a cult comedy movie.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, dang it.
So
okay, before you go watch your watch later playlist on YouTube, watch Super Troopers.
Yeah, there we go. That's a good one. So there's a scene in Super Troopers because it's basically about bored highway patrol members. And there's a scene in Super Troopers where they capture a bunch of kids who are high, like who just get high, and so they put them in the back of their vehicle, and then they take a call to go somewhere else, and they show up at this place, and then the kids are stuck in the back of this car while they're taking this call, and then there's some gunshots, and this guy comes out wearing a wig, who's not a cop, jumps into the cop car, and they're like, "Did he just shoot the cop?" And the guy turns around and looks at him and goes, "You boys like Mexico?" And then just starts driving the car. Turns out that the guy who was in the wig was another cop messing with the kids in the back. But that whole moment, that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stage it so that somebody, so something to the effect of like I'm going to start doing criminal missions, and they're like, why do these look like guards? Are we killing guards? No. but are we bad guys? Shut up. They have your armor. Now take that and follow me. Don't ask stupid questions. Are we smuggling drugs? No, these are medical supplies for orphans. Are they chasing us? Yes. Because they want to steal the orphans. I'm going to take some poor new player, and I'm going to drag them through the most hardcore criminal routine I can to freak them out.
Oh, that's funny.
So that is my level of RP that is going to go too far.
Man, that's funny.
All right, so John
I was going
Shaves.
to say, I inadvertently dropped into a match of Starship Troopers with 15 other people, and they were all role playing as if it was the movie, and it was hilarious. It was one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had.
That was the first thing that came into my head when I first fought against the Terminids. I was like, this is just like Starship Troopers. And then they like told me like one of the planets that was on the map was actually named after one of the planets from the Clendathu. And I was like, no shot. And I was like, and then after that, I was like, wow, they really took their inspiration here and there, but it was just really hilarious.
Speaking of Helldivers 2, John Shaves asks, Helldivers 2 compared to WoW as an example of what level of impact should players' activities have on the world and story?
WoW?
World of Warcraft.
Oh, World.
Where it's basically like, the story's already pre-written, you're going through the motions, and so like, when you finish the quest chain, things happen. You don't really have an output. Whereas, in Helldivers, if the divers aren't protecting a specific planet, the planet falls, and then, the story changes. So,
yeah.
So it's for you, Warrior. What level of impact do you think players should have on the outcome of the story of Star Citizen?
I mean, it's kind of hard for me to say on this part because, like I said, as for someone who hasn't played Star Citizen yet, but if I go off of just like my experience on Helldivers 2, because you know how like when you like finish a certain missions on Helldivers 2, then you see like a percentage of like how much you like contributed to like liberating this planet or defending it. So when it comes to Star Citizen, I say it's very flexible. Anything can happen. I just don't know like what to say for like outcome wise or what should happen here and there, because also on top of that, I'm not very familiar with World of Warcraft either.
Yeah.
So I'm just going off of based off my Helldivers 2 experience. But I say it's kind of hard to say because if Star Citizen was kind of like the same system as like gameplay like Helldivers 2, like some systems could like fall to the enemy and you have to reclaim it, then I say the players should have like a bigger role into it, because like in Helldivers 2, most of the lore was written by the players, like Malevelon Creek and things like that. So I just say like it's hard to say yes or no, because since this is like, as you mentioned, it's a sandbox game, it could go in like so many different directions that it's hard to just like give a solid answer.
Yeah. I that's probably one of the biggest things that's probably scaring CIG's narrative team, is just how many things, the outcomes could happen with that. Tree, your thoughts? How should players have? What level of impact should players have on the world of the story of the world?
I feel like in where they allow for the environment to change, I think the player level of impact should be huge. Like we talked about with, say, Nexus, or the attacking Vandal systems, or resisting a Vandal counterattack and everything. I think that should be huge. As far as I do think the smaller narratives, like the regen, we participate. Let's take the regen crisis. It still needs to resolve. It still needs to reach its eventual end. But I think I don't think a lack of player participation should stop that narrative from progressing or send it down a different path, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
you know, uh, I guess it would be like the narrative team having a choose your own adventure, but they're leaving it up to us. And it shouldn't be everything, but the things that they do allow for it in, it should be very impactful. So a lot here versus not, because I mean, if you've got all these islands in the eventual SC universe, and some of those things should be, I guess you'd say, more static in terms of not being player impacted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. No, I'm with you. I think there needs to be some place where CIG's writing team can go, this is going to happen no matter what you do. You're here for the story. You are a cog in the machine, and the machine is going to decide which outcome it happens. But I think there's other places where, yeah, the player's impact should be the direction that the answer goes.
Yeah, you're a cog in the machine, and what you get out of it is based off of what you put into it, but you're not going to change the eventual outcome.
Yeah.
You have to remember, like, the UEE military is absolutely massive. These megacorps are absolutely massive. Like, that was, like the whole, you can build a Bengal thing. That's why I hated that, because it's like, an organization of a few thousand players can do what RSI, which is millions of employees, and all the other supporting infrastructure takes to build a couple dozen Bengals. Like,
yeah,
I don't like that believability. But if if you have a lot of players participating in an event in order to get the supplies to this flotilla of UE ships in the Virgil system, then sweet, yeah, they survived, and ultimately we won the battle. But
yeah.
All
right, so we have 3 questions left. I'm going to ask the last question first, because it's a really quick one. Because we actually asked this before. I think we asked at the beginning of the question of this. Gin and Tonic asks, "What is Warrior Humble's MOS?"
Yep, I saw that too.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be I have to go back a little bit on this one. I think I have to give like a story, a little
Okay.
bit of a story so you guys understand. So to be clear, guys, I joined the Marine Corps and I went to boot camp, MCRD, San Diego, in February 6th, 2017. And I started off as a reservist. So after I was done all that MCT training, all that, my MOS was 3381, which was food service. So, all the cooking and all that. But I only did that MOS about like 2.5 years of my 6-year contract, because when I hit corporal, I mean, I told Tree this before you actually joined when you were having that mic trouble
Yeah.
on Discord. Basically, I did say, like, when I hit corporal, I was literally the only NCO out of literally 20 Marines. Out of the 20 Marines, there were like Lance Corporals and PFCs, Private First Class. So I was the only NCO, and then they're like, "Hey, we need a platoon sergeant," and I'm like, "It's me, isn't it?" And I was like, "Cause I'm the only."
You've been voluntold.
Yeah, I know. I was like, is that a statement or? Are you trying to... And so I became the platoon sergeant, and because of that, I had to focus on so many admin work that like pay issues or travel claims and things like that, that I cannot literally do what my original job was. And we had like so many junior Marines who already knew how to do their job, that it didn't really like hurt. But I just haven't done my MOS in that long. So I was literally just doing administration all the way down to the end of my contract, which was February 5th, 2023. And then I was inactive reserves for about like maybe a year. But during that time, I was already like going to college and finishing up. I went to OCS, which is Officer Candidate School, back in summer 2022. Graduated there, and when I finished college back in May 2024, which was like a year ago, which I graduated, like I said, bachelor's degree in economics. And then 2 months later in July, I actually commissioned and became a second lieutenant. That is actually my current rank right now. So I've been a second lieutenant for almost a year now. And I'm here at Virginia at TBS, the basic school, for my next training. So I already did some training here, but then on one of the training events called the E-course, endurance course, there was a downhill portion where I accidentally, it was like really muddy and slippery because it rained the day before. And I tried to slow down on it. Like I was trying to go sideways, but I had like about a 40-pound assault pack on and a rubber rifle, because that is the combat scenario. And my ankle went in a direction it was not supposed to. So I sprained it, and also like bruised a little bit of my Achilles tendon. And the next graduation event was a 15-mile hike. But the thing is, I could not do that at all because I could not put any weight on my ankle. I was just like in a lot of pain. I could not even like put a heavy pack on. I can't even put a backpack on.
Yeah.
That's how much it hurts. So unfortunately, I got dropped from my platoon, and I've been in medical, just like recovering this ever since like the end of March. So that's why I've been focusing more on my channel.
Mhm.
But I've been doing a lot better. I can run now, do all that, and I actually been cleared. So I just need to finish one more physical event, and I should be able to pick back up with another training company starting June. So
Nice.
as for my MOS right now, I'm just ground contract for ground contract. That's all I have. I mean, that's what I am right now. But for the MOSs that I want, I do have a list on it. But the top one is counterintelligence, and and right below it, I have crap. What was it? I do have like a influence officer, and also I do have logistics on there, comms, and things like that. Just write down the list.
Nice.
And people do ask me like, "What's at the very bottom?" I'm not gonna lie to you. The one I put at the very bottom was actually ground intelligence and combat engineer, because I picked up a pack of a combat engineer once. That thing was heavier than what the infantry rifleman carries, and it's like so awkward because it was just shifting, and I was like, I can't hike with this.
I was
And
gonna say.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
So
Infantry is not that high either.
so what you're saying is that you're one of the few officers who can actually do an orienteering course. You can actually read a map.
What?
You can read a map.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
because
I mean,
because
like,
you went from being in from an enlisted to an officer, so you know how to. You can do map training.
Yeah, land navigation.
Land
Yeah.
navigation.
I know
Yeah.
that's like this. Yeah, that is. I know that is the stereotype of
Yeah.
like, lieutenants getting lost and all that. But I actually did already like a lot of those courses
Yeah.
already, and I passed them with like flying colors. Sure, there was a few of them that like did get lost out there, and I'm going like, how, man? I was like, the compass works. But yeah, I never got lost out there. Some of the guys never got lost too. So I was like, whew.
Yeah.
I was like, I know how to do land nav. I passed every single one of them. I'll admit, I did have trouble with the night one, because my MVG, my night vision goggle, started going like this, and I'm like, oh hell, no. I was like, don't be doing that.
Yeah.
But
I
I
was
managed to pass all that. Yeah.
I was in Scouts, so one of the things I Boy Scouts. So one of the things I taught was basically a Boy Scout version of land nav. That was what I did. And I actually won competitions for it. Like we do competitions of like how quickly can you find locations on a map and stamp it and move around. And we did a nighttime version of that. I was just like, no, I can't see shit. There's nothing. I can't. You barely see the landmarks or anything like that. So I can't imagine. I can't imagine doing a nighttime land nav like training. It just sounds like it's nightmare fuel.
Oh, that was actually the quote of the week. Every time we had like land nav during that week, like one of those tests, and I swear to God, we were all dying laughing because it came from one of the guys in our platoon. So the quote was, "I'm not bad at land nav, but I really don't know where I am."
I'm just constantly lost. I don't know who am I? What is going on? Why am I in this uniform?
I mean, he passed two, but the problem, he passed two, but he never got 100% on like any of them, but he did pass.
Okay.
But I swear to God, that was always the quote that we always hanged on our like, what was it called? Like those like announcement boards.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, you know what's gonna happen this week? Get your compasses, get your maps, and let's go. But we were dying because we heard him say that, and I don't think he planned on saying that. He's like, hey, I'm not bad at land nav, but I really don't know where I am.
All right.
Yeah, right there. I'm not lost. I'm momentarily
displaced. Alcinor, ask a question for you, Tree. Will we get support vehicles like an ammo carrier for the ballista and or the missile carrier crane to rearm it? So like a logistic support vehicle.
I do think they're going to have to make oh gosh, and I can't remember the acronym for the Argo pickup truck, but I think they're going to have to make a military version of that.
Mm-hmm.
But probably with a bigger bed, because I mean those size 7s on the ballista are pretty big, and so I don't know if they'd fit like on the cargo grid of the it's not the FM, but what's the
CV?
CSM? What's the?
It's a CSM.
CV. Thank you.
Yeah, CV and FM. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or SM.
Yeah, and so I think we're going to need a maybe Ursa sized, maybe a little bit bigger version, so that way you can put those bigger things on there for ground support. Obviously a little bit more SCU capacity, but you could put your bigger missiles on there for the ballista. And who knows what the ammo is going to look like for like the Tunk.
Yeah.
It's a size 5 ballistic cannon. Eventually we're going to have to reload it. That could be pretty sizable too. But maybe with a remote operated tractor turret.
That's the nickname. Well, I'll explain a little bit, Humble. The Nova is called the Tonk because the guy who created it, the guy who actually made the vehicle, was French.
Yeah.
So he had his.
I saw it in the chat.
He had a very thick accent. So no one was making fun of him. It was just more like the way he said it was so great because he was so confident and he was talking about it in a video. He was like Zitonk, 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 Zitonk. And so like when the video came out, there were members of CIG staff of the development staff in the channel, like in the live stream that the video had released, and all of them were like Zitonk, Zitonk, and everyone started calling it Zitonk, and that's just why the community calls it the Tonk, because it's the only tank we have. It was called Zitonk by the creator, the guy who created it, and I'm like, I mean, heck, the name of the company that makes it is Tumbrel, which is named after the old two-wheeled carts from the French Revolution. So it's like it's a French tank. It's called Zitonk, the Nova Tonk.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I definitely think that's gonna happen because and Argo doesn't make military. They haven't crossed that line, and so I mean, yeah, we could use Argo for it. But I still think that there would be a military one that looks, kind of like the
Can you imagine?
Yeah, but just like the acronym that just came out, is meant to look like it's armored and everything like that. And they said it will be more armored. It would be that, but gray or whatever and armored and maybe a little bit bigger and carry more stuff.
I just see like there's a lot of gosh, what is the old army thing that's used for everything now that everyone hates? The 113 or the M113, which is basically everything, like something like that, where it's like designed for like towing down vehicles or repairing them or resupplying them.
And they've said we're going to be able to replace the wheels and swap those out. So maybe you could have a remote tractor beam on it that you could use to, swap out parts, on vehicles that get damaged and
Oh, it says right there the M113, which has been around since Vietnam.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the rifle that they gave us here, the M16, that thing has been probably it's almost as old as me. Because I mean, if you look at it, I was like, bro, this thing definitely has been in the Gulf War.
It's just Tree's old rifle. That's all. You just got Tree's old rifle.
I know. If I manage to like take that out of the cage right here, then I'll be like, hey, Tree, does the serial number look familiar?
Don't worry, Trees came from Granada, so that's that one came from Nam. So it's about older than the
Oh yeah, that's one thing we always said about like one of our guys.
It wasn't that old when I used it. Okay.
I mean, one of our guys, he like really excelled on everything physically. I mean, the PFT, he literally ran the 3 miles with like so many hills in like 17 minutes and 20 seconds. And there's hills, and I'm thinking, Jesus.
Yeah.
And he did the obstacle course in like under 2 minutes, and it was crazy. So one joke we always said is like, remember guys, to make us feel better, because we're not like having scores as similar to him. We always kept on saying to each other, remember guys, he was not born, he was government issued. That's what we say. It makes us feel better. We're like, we're the normal ones. He's the one that's actually meant for this.
Someone's asking if the M4 is a standard rifle. No, the Marines still use the M16. As far as I know, they still use the M16.
M16A4 is the standard now. I mean, they use M4s like in light armored reconnaissance and other units and stuff, but the standard infantry rifle is still the M16 with the Marines.
Yeah. I mean, like at my old unit, we did have several M4s, but the M4s only went to the officers. the E7s and above, so like gunnery sergeant, first sergeant, and also to the really short Marines because they're the only ones with like the adjustable like stock.
Yeah.
So they're because I mean like every time we give her the M16, she cannot literally wrap around cannot reach. So yeah, we had limited M4s, and they always go to either the higher ups or the vertically challenged Marines.
Yeah. All right, last question. This is from Gin and Tonic, who asks, speaking of battle cruisers, I just did a survey of the Kickstarter ships and that they delivered and not. 24 in total, 17 in game, 7 not. There are names associated with all of these except for battle cruiser. When do you think we will see it? Who do you think will make it? And what capabilities will they fit in the hierarchy? Here's the thing. We already know what it is, who makes it, and where it'll be, because we already know the cruiser. The cruiser is what I've dubbed the integrity class, because the one named cruiser that we know of that was named a cruiser and was also showed up at the Squadron 42 demo video, because it's at the Battle of Vega, was the UES integrity. And since it's in the lore, it's mentioned as a cruiser. We know that's the case. It's those ones that you saw with the big guns that looked like a battleship in the in the video.
Go watch Jail's video.
Yeah, Jail did a whole big breakdown of it. So likely, typically a difference between a battle cruiser and a cruiser is armaments or armor. It's usually heavier than a cruiser, and sometimes it has more weapons or has bigger weapons. So it's like a cross between a cruiser and a battleship. So almost certainly it's going to be the same RSI ship, probably even the same pattern. It just, instead of whatever the size guns on it, like size 9s or whatever, it's size 10s or size 12s or whatever. It's just going to be a modified version of the original cruiser, almost certainly. But it'll guaranteed be made by RSI, because RSI makes all of the Navy capital ships. Aegis doesn't make capital ships anymore. They still support the Aegis and the Javelin, but those are old ships. So the all of the new capital ships, like the Polaris, the Bengal, they're all made by RSI. So sorry, Anvil fans. I don't see Anvil making anything but maybe a frigate or a whatever or corvette, something similar to the Polaris.
Yeah. No, I agree, because the lore suggests that RSI supplanted Aegis in making basically, when we say like capitals, we're not talking about the little ones, which is, the Idris, and even the Javelin is little by comparison. The lore supports they supplanted Aegis in, supplying everything cruiser on up. The cruiser, the battle cruiser, the Bengal, it's the escort carrier. And so I could see that Anvil is probably supplanting Aegis in the smaller department. I wouldn't be surprised if we got an Anvil frigate and Anvil Javelin or Anvil destroyer to replace the within the Navy, replace the Idris and the Javelin. Yeah.
Someone's asking for
Which video?
For the Jail video.
I will find it.
Yeah, it's I've looked up the Jail's channel. It's his breakdown of the Squadron 42. Let me see if I can find it. Videos.
Yeah, I did a longer breakdown on all the lore backing behind all those things, but Jail went in and enhance to figure out what they were, because there is like a couple of that are named
Every
and everything,
name
and you
ship
can
of
see
the
the difference.
Navy. He does 47 minutes long.
Yeah, the one on the Squadron ships was only a few minutes. Hold on, I got it. I know what to look for, because I've had to find it like 10 times.
Like the shorter version?
Yeah, the shorter version is.
Here we go. Found it in chat.
He did. Jail's great because he comes to these details. He did an entire video just on the uniforms of the Navy from Squadron 42, comparing them to real life naval uniforms in the U.S. Navy
Oh, that's the shorter one.
and the British
Sorry,
Navy.
here's the longer one.
Pull up all like what the ranks patterns are and stuff like that.
The one I just dropped is the Star Citizen's New Capital Ships Deep Dive. That one's 10 minutes long, and then he did
all name ships, units, and characters.
And then a 3-minute one confirming, looking at a few other things that back it up that I also linked.
Yeah. But yeah, that's generally speaking, that's the last question. Bigger than a jab, smaller than a Bengal. Yeah, they're bigger than a jab, smaller than a Bengal. They seem to be built off of the same framework as the Bengal. My guess is RSI is doing quick and dirty work, where the Bengal works, so they just miniaturize the Bengal, and you can see that where with the, it's almost like they take the top of the Bengal for the battle cruiser, and then the bottom of the Bengal for the carrier. They just split it in half because you can actually see where this then the cells for the carrier are on the bottom, and then the cells for the cruiser are on the side to the top. It's more in line with the main structure. So.
Yeah, it's like they got started and they made a bunch of the part of the base hull and then built it out to make it took this part and built it out to make the super carrier, took this part and added this here to make the cruiser, this here to make the escort carrier. There are subtle differences. Go watch Jail's video because it's not they're not variants at all. They are different ships, but it's in the lore on RSI that if you read it, like I put it in my link for my podcast that I did on this, you can go back and look at the lore, and it talks about why RSI got this contract and how RSI is building these capital ships. It's basically a very efficient process in order to make more big ships, and they got the contract because they're the only ones that could make ships that big at the time.
They're the ones who could make ships that big at the time, and also didn't participate in human rights abuses. So rampant human rights abuses and a brutal dictatorship that they was just overthrown. So they were kind of like, yes, safe.
Less bad corpos.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you. Make sure to check out Warrior Humble, youtube.com/Warrior Humble, youtube.com/Tree0311 and twitch.tv/Tree0311. You're going to be going on doing podcasts right after this, right? Or soon?
Yeah, in just over 2 hours. So it'll be 10 p.m. Eastern. Yep.
Okay. So go check that out. If you did enjoy this, please hit that follow button. Subscribe to us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/ at the Captain's Table Podcast and twitch.tv/the Astro Pub. If you want to watch us live, we do this at Saturdays starting at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Love to have you come by and join us. Like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.
Cheers, Semper Fi.
See you guys.